It is no secret that the American nuclear family is in trouble. We can look around, examine the culture, and quickly come to the conclusion that the idea of a mom and a dad and 2.5 kids and a dog named Fido is almost unheard of these days. These days, it is all about the village. It's all about alternative family configurations. The weirder they are, the better. There's no value in the specific role function of a traditional mother and father. And the culture has tried to convince us that all family configurations are created equal. They want us to embrace the freedom of organizing your family in any way that you wish. There's no difference. They're all the same. Everyone is fine. We're all fine. Everything is just fine. But is it though? It is this way of thinking wise? There are indeed many existential threats to the American nuclear family. These threats, which are dangerous, evil, and downright destructive, are not presented to us as threats, however. We're brainwashed into believing that they're good for us. Be more progressive, they say. Get with the times. You're so behind. The world is literally turning upside down, and they want us to believe that their virtue that's cloaked in freedom is good for us. But in reality, it's nothing but death, bondage, and destruction. American society as we know it cannot survive at the rate and trajectory that we're currently on. We are drowning in wokeness, social irresponsibility is glorified, and the sexual revolution that we're currently living in, it has no boundaries. So, what are the threats to today's nuclear family? And what can you do to protect yourself and your loved ones from the toxic tentacles of trepidation? Why is the nuclear family under attack? And will the invisible dark forces that are working to destroy it, will they succeed? Come on in and let's talk about it. We're going to get into it, all of this and more on the Standard of Truth podcast. Well, hello, you guys. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast. I am your host, April Chapman. Happy Friday. I am so glad to be with you all this evening. I have an exciting show planned for you tonight. Y'all, when I tell you that I need to increase my omega-3s and get my fish oil on because my brain connection to my speech has been like all messed up lately. So last week, my husband clowned me because he's like, "Why have you been calling your podcast for the past 2 weeks a podcast?" And I'm like, I don't know. He was like, "Okay, but podcast is not even like the natural flow of the word." Like he just wouldn't let it go. He just kept going on talking about you just kept saying podcast. And I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I got a lot going on. My life has just been a little hectic lately. So y'all give me some grace. If I trip up on my words, it's because I have so much going on and swirling in my head. But the communication is like dripping. I mean, feel like the wires are crossed. So anyway, I'm glad to be with you guys. I have a great show. I have a guest. He is not a stranger to the Standard of Truth podcast. He has been on before. We actually discussed his book, Missing Pillars. So we're going to have none other than Pastor Brian Shannon on the show. And Pastor Brian and we talked a couple of weeks ago and he had sent me some articles. He was like, "Sis, we got to get into this. We need to just discuss some of these threats to the nuclear family." And at first, we were going to discuss threats to the nuclear family as it pertains to the Black community. But as I started digging into some of the articles he wanted to talk about, I realized I was like, you know what? These are just existential threats to the American family, period. I was like, white folks and Black folks alike, we are all trying to dodge the darts of so much of this foolishness that's out here. So we're going to talk about it. But before we get into the show, I want to talk to all of my homeschooling families. If you are a homeschooling family, a homeschool mama, a homeschool daddy, put a one in the chat. I have a very, very special message from one of my sponsors tonight. If you or your kids have ever thought that history was boring, you are in for a surprise. I got you guys, there is a God honoring, God centered homeschool summit that is taking place that I want to share with you guys. So here it is, the God centered homeschool summit. It's coming up April 3rd through the 7th. I want you to bring the whole family. Now it's virtual, so you're not physically bringing the family anywhere, but bring the whole family along for this thrilling storytelling experience that will showcase the amazing work of Jesus around the world through the millennia. This summit is going to transform your view of history. It's going to reshape your teaching approach, and it will inspire your children to advance Christ's kingdom in history yet to be written. So scan that QR code. That's going to take you to a special page where you can register for this summit for free. It is absolutely free. If you're a homeschooling family, you don't want to miss it. Matter of fact, I was going to show you some of the headliners that are going to be there. We're going to have definitely Paul Washer is going to be there. Oh my gosh. You know what? At the end of the show, I will share with you specifically who will be some of the speakers at this summit, but it is virtual and it is free. And if you're a homeschooling family and you recognize that history is being rewritten and things that are not really history are being rewritten to shape the worldview of your children, this is a conference you don't want to miss. So, the God Centered History Summit is a free homeschool online event, and it is April the 3rd through the 7th. So, that's almost like a week and a few days away from now. So, I just wanted to mention that to you guys before we get started. Hello to everyone in the live chat, whether you're watching us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're joining us from, we welcome you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. We're so glad you're here. Whether you are a Christian or not, this content is relevant for you, and I do believe it will be edifying and you're going to enjoy it. I want to say hi. I want to say thank you to all my moderators. You guys do such an amazing job supporting me on this journey. And then lastly, I want to send a special shout out to two people. One, last week, if you tuned into the show, I had Celeste Duffy, author of The Ass Backwards Way to Move Forward. This woman is just so sweet and so special. I don't know if you guys notice anything different, right? Y'all see? Wait, y'all see those right there? Y'all, she sent me these flowers that I absolutely love. And y'all, outside of keeping kids alive, don't send me things that need nourishment and that like life force. I have no real plants because I just kill everything other than children. So I am working hard to preserve these and keep them alive. But they are absolutely beautiful. And I just want to tell Sister Celeste, thank you. And my other um, thank you. I want to send to a subscriber, Sister Jillian. Y'all, my standard home and living lifestyle store, from the moment I launched it, it took off, and you guys have been so supportive. And she was one of the first people to place an order. And y'all, everything that could go wrong with that order went wrong with the order. It was like everything that she ordered, one supplier just randomly got kicked off the platform and I couldn't find the dress. I think I've sent her like 3 separate shipments because I've just been trying to replace and resource everything that she ordered. But the rest of y'all got y'all stuff in a decent amount of time. I want to say thank you to Sister Julian. She never complained. She was so patient. She was like, listen, things happen. I get it. Um, Everything has been resolved. Her stuff is going out. And I am just grateful for all of the support and the fact that she was so gracious and so kind. Because it had it been me, I'd have been like, listen, I love you, Sister April, but I'm gonna need my money back because this is taking a minute. But she's gonna have her stuff before Easter. So thank you Sister Jillian. And if the rest of you have not visited the Standard Home and Living Lifestyle Store, I have some amazing things that I just launched. I got some new arrivals that came in. So we are busy, busy, busy. Like all around the studio, it's just boxes of crap that I got to get out. So let's not belabor the point. Tonight, we are talking about the top 3 threats to the nuclear family with Pastor Brian Shannon. We're going to analyze them. I don't think there's just 3 threats. There are more than 3 threats, but due to the sake of time, we're probably only going to have time to analyze what we believe are the top 3. So, in true standard of truth, hospitality and all things happy and lovely, let's welcome my guest, Pastor Brian Shannon, to the show. Hey, Brian.
What's going on, Sister April?
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, the
Yeah.
last time we sat down, we talked about your book, Missing Pillars. You guys, if you have not gotten that book, you need to. Brother Brian's story is incredible, and he doesn't just outline his childhood and all of the pitfalls that he experienced due to the lack of a father figure in his life, but he ends and gives us solutions, actual things that we can do to help rebuild the family. So go ahead and get that book. But tonight, when you reached out to me, you sent me like a boatload of articles to analyze. And I was happy to do it. And it was so overwhelming. I was like, I don't even know where to start. So what made you decide to want to discuss this particular topic tonight?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, and first, let me say shout out to you again for glad to be on with you again. So excited to be here to engage your audience. But this is a worthwhile topic because the crux of what I was wanting to get at in my book is that there's a family issue. I meant, my book was written from the context of the Black family. However, in my introduction, I said, the enemy of the family is an equal opportunity offender, right? He doesn't care if you're Black, white, or otherwise. It just so happens that there's a particular, so our enemy is crafty. Satan is crafty. He wants to destroy the family, and he studies culture. Believe it or not, Satan knows culture, and he knows how to, so we talk about I talked about 3 major things that I believe are eroding the family. So can I just name those things?
You
Number,
can.
all right, so one is cultural Marxism, the woke leftist ideology, right? Woke leftist ideology, cultural Marxism. Number 2, I believe is pop culture. Okay, what's coming through pop culture, and of course, pop culture. These themes tend to overlap on one another because pop culture tends to be informed by some of the major socio-political ideas that come out, and they're really they're moral and religious, because Marx was indeed an apostle of atheism as well as Satanism. But anyway, and then the third one being the sexual revolution and queer ideology. Okay. And so I believe those 3 things, which we can unpack those 3 things, and there are multiple, layers of ideas that can actually go underneath those umbrellas. But those are the things that I think are working against us. But Satan is very crafty in how he attacks and uses those 3 approaches with various culture and various groups of people, right? Whether it be a socio-political idea, how he's using communism in China, right? How he's using, whatever the socio and religious ideas are in Muslim countries, right? And oppression through those things, as well as a sexual ethic that everybody has. Every culture has a sexual ethic that runs sort of rampant throughout their culture. It's a theme throughout their culture, as well as, whatever's popular that is promoted and propagated in their culture amongst their youth. Because here's what Adolf Hitler, and I know I'm rambling a little bit, but we'll bring it in. But Adolf Hitler knew, and he was quoted as saying that he wanted to control the nation, and he knew that he could do it through the youth of the nation. And so he did it through the youth of the nation by indoctrinating them. And that was the goal of Marx, which was to attack youth, attack family. And if I could move family out of the driver's seat, if I can get family out of out of the way as the main influence on the youth, then we can control the direction of the nation.
Right. And so it's interesting that you bring that up because all we have to do is just look through American history, how at one point we actively stood against and opposed such ideologies. Like we knew it was a threat. We knew it was a threat.
Mm,
And we were like,
mm.
yeah, that's what y'all do over here. But this is America. We don't do.
Right,
And it's funny because now it's like we've let our guard down
right.
and we're being destroyed from within. And we're on something else because I was listening today where Uganda's taking a stance like, listen,
I saw that.
we don't do that over here, partner. I don't. They was like, we and America is so brazen
Yeah,
and
yeah,
arrogant to think that it can. Well, they're probably going to sanction and withhold, money from them because it's like, oh,
yeah.
you don't want to capitulate and bow to the culture. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see how this plays out. I don't want to go off on a rabbit trail, but if y'all haven't, do some research and check out what's going on with Uganda
Hmm.
and how they're fighting against their own sexual revolution that America is trying to impress upon them, and they're like,
Right.
nope, nah, pimping, we don't want that. So, all right, so
Yeah.
you talked about 3 threats that you believe are in your top 3 in terms of being a threat to the nuclear family. You talk about leftist ideology, pop culture, and then the sexual revolution. So, in order to give our discussion some framework and a foundation, what I want to do is I want to discuss one of the articles. We're going to discuss a lot of articles, but the first
Hmm.
article we're going to discuss, I don't know if you guys have heard Governor Ron DeSantis, who is governing well the great state of Florida,
Hmm.
has recently put his foot down. And what he has done is he has rejected a particular Black history course. And the reason why I'm using
Hmm.
air quotes for those who are listening to the audio and I call it a Black history course because what the ideologues who are in charge are trying to do is they're trying to hijack language and they're not trying, they're
Yes.
blatantly lying and saying, see here, this is white supremacy. They
Right.
don't want Black people to learn their history. But what
Right.
they're doing, they're assuming and they're hoping that the less intellectually honest ones of our bunch are not going to be like, well, wait a minute. Is that what really is happening? They want us to not ask questions and to dig deeper to figure out why is he rejecting this Black history course. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we are actually going to discuss the specifics. We're not just going to examine at face value and be like, see, I knew it, them down there in that there Florida just racist. No, that's not what's happening. We're
Hmm.
going to be intelligent, right? We're going to be adult and we're going to dig a little deeper to figure out what exactly is happening. And then Pastor Shannon is really going to tell us what's at work here, right? He's going to tell us what's at work. So let me figure out the best way to share this. Okay, here we go. So there he is, in all of his blue suit, full head of hair glory. Governor Ron DeSantis. You can tell I actually like Ron a lot. And the article reads as follows that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis reiterated on Monday the state's rejection of a proposed nationwide advanced African American studies course, saying it pushes a political agenda, something 3 authors cited in the state's criticism accused him of doing in return. So the charge is that he doesn't want this course because he believes the contents of this course is pushing a political agenda. And then the critics are like, well, we think you're pushing a political agenda. So let's examine this with biblical lens and just on the face of truth, what is really happening. So it says his administration, there it goes again, y'all,
Hmm.
rejected the College Board's advanced placement African American Studies course because we want education, not indoctrination. So, like, guys, what's in this course that caused him to be like, nah, we don't want it? What happened was the course promotes the idea that modern American society oppresses Black people other minorities, and women. It also includes a chapter on Black queer studies that the administration finds inappropriate, and it also uses articles by critics of capitalism. So essentially, the governor said that the course violates legislation that he's already passed. And we probably got to unpack the Stop Woke Act, because when some people hear that, they think, oh, we can't talk about things of other ethnicities other than white. And that's not what it is. When you hear woke, you know exactly what is being, well, maybe you don't know. Maybe we might need to break down what the Stop Woke Act really is. But it bars instruction that defines people as necessarily oppressed or privileged based on that race. So basically, it's opposing critical race theory. That's saying
Right.
just because you black, you not oppressed, and just because you white, you don't have white privilege, right? I'm summarizing. It says at least some writers, the course cites, believe modern U.S. society endorses white supremacy while opposing racial minorities, gay people, and women. So it's basically trying to sell these college students that these intersectionality groups are victims. If you're a woman, you're a victim. If you're gay, you're a victim. If you're a minority of any kind, you're a victim. And if you're not that and you're white supremacist. Right. So these are the negative things that are being touted in this course that the governor has pushed back on. I'll let you pick up from here in terms of analyzing the article, Brian.
Yeah. And so, you know, one of the things that is important to lay the foundation here, as we move forward, is if you go back to what was stated in the original BLM statement, right?
The manifesto.
Right. When you go back to that, they actually said that we, number one, they were, these LGBTQ women, right? They were lesbians. And they also said that we are trained Marxists. Keep that in mind, that we are trained Marxists. When it came out that they were cited for financial impropriety, right? They were funding LGBTQ organizations and efforts
and initiatives, right?
And initiatives. And so when we look at this, what Ron DeSantis is putting a stop to here, so it says the course on Black history, what's one of the lessons about queer theory, as it's talking here. Now, who would say that's an important part of Black history is queer theory, right?
So the issue is they're conflating our ethnic heritage and things that happen in history, and they're trying to blend that with a sexual identity. Exactly. I hope you people hear that. When people talk about your history as a Black person, we talk about Garrett A. Morgan and Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass.
Right.
Like you're trying to put that and I don't know, notable queer people and them coming out and being brave and living their truth. They're trying to put that on an equal playing field. It's all lumped in the same category. And I don't know if I'm trying to remember if it was Delano or Virgil Walker when I had them on my show. They talked about with the civil rights movement how they hitched the wagon of the LGBT agenda to the civil rights movement, and they did it without us even realizing it was happening.
Exactly. And so again, this is a Trojan horse effort. We got to see that, because when you look a little deeper, because what they want you to see, what they want you to believe is that this is an effort to stop social justice, and this is an effort to stop Black history from being, taught in the schools, when really they're riding that, train, and the cart that they're bringing along with it is the indoctrination of queer theory. That's really what it is. And so under the guise of let's bring equity to our education system by making sure that we have equal, access, that kids have equal access to Black history, that they have access to their history so they can understand, where they come from and who they are. But really, the goal under the Marxists, because listen, don't misunderstand that. When Patrisse Cullors said we are trained Marxists,
Right.
the idea of Marx was to indoctrinate the masses such that the nuclear family, number one on his list, is that he wanted to abolish family, because if I can neutralize family, decentralize family, then the state can take over. The state can
Right.
fully indoctrinate.
Right. And by their own admission, right, when you looked at the original, I call it the BLM manifesto, they literally said that their whole goal was to dismantle
Yep.
the heteronormative nuclear family. So as I said in my soft opening, I don't know if y'all heard, I basically mentioned that the idea of a mom, a dad, the 2.5 kids in Fido, no. To them, they want us to have multiple and varied family configurations, and those
Correct.
should be considered equal as what we know yields the best outcomes. Now, hear what I'm
Right.
not saying. Y'all know I always got to give qualifiers, because it's gonna be some folks that I don't understand modern thought. People struggle to think in proper categories, right? You and I both were raised by a single mom. So are we
Correct.
saying, brother Brian,
Right.
that, you know, we were both raised by single moms, so we're not saying that because of the fall, other family structures don't exist.
Right.
What we are
Correct.
saying is that everyone, it should be understood that God's design of mama, daddy, and kids together formulating a family gives the best outcomes. It doesn't
Absolutely.
mean that, you know, when Becky and Jim Bob was raised in a two-parent home, that Jim Bob may not have issues. We ain't
There
saying
you
that.
go.
Nor
There
are
you
we
go.
saying that April and her mama, because I was raised by a single mom, that I'm necessarily going to have issues. What we are saying is that there are going to be deficiencies
You're right. That's right.
because the proper order is not there. And we know we live in a fallen world, so there are all kinds of family configurations. But what we're trying to help the audience understand is that BLM specifically wants to dismantle the family because they're trained Marxists. And when you understand what Karl Marx's entire premise and goal in life was to dethrone God,
That's right.
right? And get rid of the family.
That's right.
Because they know that in the confines of a family, there are boundaries set,
There you go.
worldviews are properly shaped. And when you got kids that come from a strong family, they're least likely to deflect from their strong foundation, because they're like, no, my parents
Mm-hmm.
did not raise me like that. I hear what you're trying to sell me, but I'm not convinced. But
That's
when the
right.
state raises children, it's easier to get a foothold in. Much
Absolutely.
easier.
Absolutely. So April, if you bring us back in, I want to share something.
Okay, sure. You want me to take this off the screen?
Yeah, you can bring us back in.
Gotcha.
I think people might be weirded out, but we're just talking over the words.
Right, we can't see stuff. Right, I got
So
you.
listen, you brought up a great point, April. Let me share this. So I shared this in your and the last show that I was on with you, and I sound like a broken record, but I think it's a salient point. Remember what Lyndon B. Johnson said, right? We don't quote Lyndon B. Johnson often, but remember what he said. The family is the cornerstone of our society.
Right.
More than any other force, it shapes the attitudes, the hopes, the ambitions, the values of the child. And when the family collapses, it is the children that are usually damaged. And when it happens on a massive scale, the community itself is crippled. So, with that in mind, what is the new? And you hinted at some of these. I wrote some things down here that the nuclear family is designed to do. Number
Right.
one, according to the scriptures, Matthew 19, Jesus said what? In the beginning, God made them. He reflects the record of Genesis because he is the author of the word. And so he reflects the record of Genesis. And when he said, God made them male and female, and for this reason, a man shall leave his mother and father and be joined his wife. So the nuclear family is designed to reflect the God-given complementary nature of men and women. Well, what's our culture trying to do right now, April? Redefine what men and women are.
Right.
Redefine. And so when you do that, that's at the foundation of the nuclear family. So when you start there, you're weakening the fabric of what a nuclear family is right at its core and its foundation. Number two, the nuclear family is supposed to promote a positive sexual ethic and the idea that sex has its place within marriage. Now, not everybody practices that.
Right.
However, the idea that children come through, a man and a woman, and marriage was the institution for the longest time that we've understood that's where it kind of is channeled through. The reason why marriage is being attacked is because they don't want, if we can do away with morals and ethics, do away with morals and ethics. Margaret Sanger, very interestingly, she promoted the idea that, and as well as many other communists and Marxists, who she, based on the ideology that she subscribed to, that they said we need to do away with moral standards, moral plumb lines in society. Because if we can do that, then there's nothing that people will grab a hold of when we want to indoctrinate them with what we want them to do. Right. And so she used that as a means of saying, Planned Parenthood, here we come. Let's get rid of morals. So she was one of the biggest apostolates of the sexual revolution.
Right. As old as she was. Way back when. Oh, little freak nasty. Oh my
nasty.
God. Listen.
Nasty.
That you sent me that sermon.
You saw that?
I watched the whole thing. I'm gonna link to it at the end of the show. But when that brother broke down all of the interworkings between Margaret Sanger and who her crew was, and how she wanted to dismantle values and just wanted people to experiment with all kinds of different sexual deviancy on that was a wicked woman.
Her connection to Alfred Kinsey, that nasty demonic pervert, and how he was connected to there was an Alfred Kinsey of England, right? There was that guy's counterpart in England, and they were just all networked together. They were the apostles of the sexual revolution. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And how I was just baffled because we know by her own admission that Hillary Clinton idolized Margaret.
Wow, right?
Like,
right.
That is your shero.
Wow.
You are probably 10 times the daughter of Satan that she was.
Wow. Watch this, April. Nuclear families are designed to instill values taught by God. So, do all families function that way? No, but they were designed to instill values taught by God to their children to guard them from worldly influences. And here, look at what Karl Marx said. One of his top 5 things that he wanted to do. He wanted to dismantle family. He wanted to get rid of God, and he wanted to get rid of what's called objective truths.
Right. So that's where you get this, it's my truth, and how my truth might be different from your truth, but it's all truth. Yep. I tell you, I can't stand that term, my truth.
That's a trigger for me.
Gen Zs and millennials are notorious for saying it.
My truth.
Some of the weirdos of our generation, these Gen Xers, who for whatever have adopted it as well.
That was an Oprah thing.
That's the point. My truth. No. There is an objective truth. Like, we have to have a standard to appeal to determine whether something is true or not. It's just like 2 + 2 is always 4. It's not 8, depending on who you talk to. But I believe all 3 of these threats that we're going to analyze tonight, they're all interconnected and related, and they build upon each other. And I'm hoping we'll be able to make that connection and build upon that tonight. So basically, your first pillar is leftist ideology. So when we talk about leftist ideology, like this might trigger some people, but y'all need to know this. It is the wokeism, right? And how would you define wokeism? It's a broad term, right?
That is a broad term. So underneath that, you got various things. You got critical race theory. You've got, all of the theories, right? The critical theories, right? And I would say that woke ideology is this idea that go back to the Gramscian understanding that there's a structure, a societal structure in place. There are people who are at the hierarchy of that structure, and our goal is to take down their power, to dismantle their power, so that we can redistribute that power amongst the masses, so that everybody's equal. But see, the lie of that kind of approach is that there's always somebody who's still got power at the top. There's
Right.
always still people who are still the richest at the top. These people who talk about they're against capitalism. Meanwhile, Patrice Cullors and them were stealing money and buying mansions.
And living the American capitalistic dream on the
Thank you.
back of
Thank you.
gullible folks who was giving her money. But
Ibram X. Kendi, the other woke apostle, spouting lies. He makes over $20,000, $30,000 per a presentation that he does, for his DEI or whatever you call his kinds of presentations about equity and race, to these companies, and these Fortune 500 companies paying him $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a session, and in some cases not a session, an hour, right? An hour.
Wow.
To tell them how racist they are.
Hey, woke is profitable, man.
You know what I'm saying?
When I'm like ready to retire, I mean, if my heart was just wicked and depraved, I'm like, hey, I won't be surprised if some people I know don't turn woke just for the check.
Right. And that woke approach is designed to establish a sense of suspicion that we ought to find racism in everything. We ought to find, we're suspicious of everybody, right? Is racism where it doesn't even exist. Nope. But it's there because we'll find it. Like I told you, there's racism in stoplights. Remember, I read that article.
You did tell me that.
There was racism in stoplights. I'm still trying to figure it out. Where it at? I'm like, can you explain that one to me? It's because when you're into this woke ideology, you're deceived, and it's stupidity. Really, it's really stupidity. You're deceived to thinking that way, and it keeps you blind. Why? One of the other things that Marx wants to do is he wants to be able to control the masses such that if we want to dismantle a country, because one of Marx's other pillars was dismantling nations. Wow. And if he can topple nations by weakening the fabric of the people, he can, sort of create dissension amongst the people and create riots and unrest of the people.
You mean like what's happening here in America?
Right.
Like we're living through it. Oh, because I told you America is being torn down and dismantled from within.
Where do you think this term comes from? Rioting is the language of the oppressed. Where do you think that comes from?
Probably it's a Marxist idea.
That's a Marxist idea, right?
But you got black civil rights leaders saying it.
And they're actually trained Marxists.
See, when you try to say that, when you talk about, the golden calves of, the civil rights movement, ones that are alive, ones that are not, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to besmirch their name because we want to remember them in this idealized way that we were told what their mission was, not what the true mission was.
Right.
Exactly. So we can add victimhood to that, right? So when
wokeism
includes
victimhood. Yep.
It includes the victimhood that the your situation is not because of your bad choices. It's because somebody out there is doing something and they're preventing you from being able to achieve because they're oppressing you. So now you're the victim. But my thing is, eventually all of us are going to be victims, and then who's going to be the biggest victim? Like it's unsustainable.
There you go. And so the goal is to multiply victims, because if everybody feels like a victim now, then they'll go against the system, because it's the system that represents oppression. So you have oppressor versus oppressed paradigm, right? And victim. So now we've created new victim classes. You're transgender, you're a victim. Right? Everybody who's oppressed by the system because the system marginalizes you. You're gay, you're a victim. You're trans, you're a victim. Black, you're a victim. You're a woman, you're a victim. And so we could make a case that women have been, because women have been oppressed at one time, and this is why they have to watch this. The LGBTQ, the queer ideology, has to ride the coattail of civil rights to now become a class of victim, to become an oppressed class, just like black people. So it started with gays, the new black.
Right, I remember that. But okay, so to go back, I don't know if you heard out. I think it was in California. There is a diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator or director who got fired because even in her wokeness, she refused to not use. She didn't want to use the term Latinx or Filipino X, right? Because she was just like, I'm not saying that.
I don't even think
And
I know what that means, April.
they fired her.
Wow.
And now her and her wokeness are like, okay, now this is too far because I'm the diversity, equity, inclusion director. And now you're telling me I'm not woke enough because I
Wow.
don't want to use the term Latinx and Filipino X.
Wow.
Like, this is unsustainable. And you
Wow.
know it's bad when the woke
The
folks
left
are
eats
like,
their own.
it's too far.
Right. The left will eat their own.
They eat their own. Right. So is there anything else you wanted to, when it comes to this, the Ron DeSantis article, the only thing that I wanted to point out was the fact that I need to bring, let me just put it back on the screen for a quick second, right? So this curriculum had like 5 authors, right? And there's a section on Black queer studies. Why this is included in Black American history, I know why, but they tried to squeeze it in. And it includes readings by Roderick Ferguson, who is a Yale University professor of women's, gender, and sexuality studies. And the state says that he exclaims, we have to encourage and develop practices whereby queerness isn't a surrender to the status quo of race, class, gender, and sexuality. In his book, One Dimensional Queer, in the book, he says it's a discussion of employment discrimination, laws against LGBTQ plus people, the suppression of progressive movements in the U.S., police violence against minority communities, restrictions on immigration, and anti-Black racism. Now, tell me how all those related. Are they?
Right. So you got laws against LGBTQ people. What's that? Suppression of progressive movements.
Right. Police violence against minority communities.
Right.
Then
right.
they throwing in immigration.
Right.
And then anti-Black racism.
Racism. So it's a hodgepodge of, again, like, let's throw all of this stuff under the umbrella in this woke sort of, under this woke paradigm.
Right.
So that we can actually, redefine terms really and call and just label all of it social justice.
Exactly. When half of this is not, it's here. I said this in another one of my live streams, and I was like, listen, we need to treat the LGBT community like we treat all other communities, like people.
Right.
They are people. They are image bearers made in the image of God. But
Agreed.
this special, these inherent qualities, like this melanin, like I can't wash that off. Yeah, I'm gonna need. We not the same. We're not
Right.
the same. I don't know. I don't care how you feel, and this goes back to the objective truth. When we don't have an objective standard for truth, this stuff gets ushered in, and then people, particularly Christians, remain silent because we're like, well, I can't say because then I don't want to get labeled. Listen, if you don't know who you are by now, and if you can't stand two toes down, or however they say 10 toes, how many toes you have, like if you can't just stand and be like, listen, I respect you as an image bearer of God, but we need to have this discussion because we're not the same. And
right.
There's no, you don't need any special rights that you don't already have. You and I have the same rights. We can go to a restaurant and eat. We can go and be the same. What you want is special treatment. And that's not something I'm willing to give up. And if Christians just need to just be Christians and stand up and fight back. So
rights redefined. That's what they want.
Right. So this, you believe, is one of the threats to the nuclear family, because what happens is if your child goes to college, takes a course, gets a textbook like this, they're going to be like, well, how come my parents didn't teach me this? Next thing you know, your freshman, son or daughter comes home woke and can't discern right from wrong, up from down, and good from bad because they have been indoctrinated. And not like, I don't see how is this going to help you in your professional life. Like,
there you go.
What the end goal here, they can't substantiate or justify how this is useful, but they just want us to accept it. And then they want to label the entire state of Florida as being racist. And now, I don't know if you heard, the the president of the Florida State NAACP chapter is literally calling for Black people as an ethnicity to boycott the state of Florida and not travel there because the state is racist.
Wow.
Now, I don't think too kindly of the NAACP because I don't consider them the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
No.
I definitely believe they're for the abortion of colored people, but that's not advancement. One, why lie and be dishonest about the curriculum that's trying to be introduced into
Right.
the school? Do you think they know, or they're ignorant and just hitching their wagon saying this, we're going to champion this cause? Like, what do you think this is?
So go back to this, April. Number one, the NAACP was founded really by Marxists.
Right.
It was co-opted by the communists, and that is verifiable. Those are facts. You can research that there were Black folks who were in the early stages of the development of the NAACP. It was a mass exodus of Black people that were leaving because they were finding out the covers were coming off. They were like, "Whoa, this is communist.
Right.
This is communism and Marxism." And those are the individuals who actually funded and founded them. And they employed the Black individuals and Black pastors and Black lay people and key individuals to be the face of it. But they were not the ones behind it. But anyway, that's a fact you can research. But go back to this. There's no such thing as objective truth in a Marxist communist ideology.
Nope.
So it doesn't matter. That's why you can't appeal to facts with these people. You can't appeal to facts. You can't appeal to reason. And guess what they say? Guess what woke ideology says, April? That appealing to reason, logic, scientific processes is racist.
Right. They say that is a form of white supremacy.
That's white supremacy.
Right.
White supremacy. So again, what is that designed to do? So Karl Marx, who was inspired by Satan, it was a brilliant, because our enemy is cunning. He's brilliant. So one, let's just strip people of the mental faculties and the use of the mind that's supposed to be at the foundation of how you approach situations. Remove that so that you don't even become a thinker. Listen what else they say is racist and white supremacist. Individuality, April. They want you to be a group thinker.
The collective.
Yes, the collective. And that was number 2 of actual Marx's pillars of the things that he wanted to dismantle was individuality. He wanted to dismantle individuality because he didn't want people going rogue. You have to follow the group, the mass, identity politics of the state, regardless of what the facts are. In fact, they would use propaganda very strategically, lies, such that they would say it loud and long enough and loud enough and frequently enough that they said it as if it were true. They would say things as if they were true, and they didn't want people to research.
Oh, you mean like the ANC does? Oh,
yeah. Right. So they want to remove that element of your faculties so that you don't think critically. Critical race theory is anything but critical. It's anything but analytical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's critical, but it's not analytical. Put it that way. Right. So it's really not analytical. So anyway, so when when you say these people, they want to they're really intellectually emoting. Right, to respond with an emotion, racism, because they've been programmed. My brother actually wrote an article, very insightful article that he wrote that was equating the Winter Soldier. Remember the Captain America Winter Soldier?
I'm not
into that, so that's wasted on you. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let me break it down to you. So. And Captain America, the Winter Soldier, yes, that's part of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Winter Soldier was this character. He was a super soldier created by, this organization. Mm-hmm. He was a super soldier, and he was programmed to, like, as a super soldier, to do the bidding of, that regime, right?
Okay.
And so the regime was kind of like it was kind of like the Nazis, right? The regime was called Hydra. Right, and Hydra was kind of equivalent to what the Nazis would be, right? And so they were led by a leader that was kind of like a Hitler. Anyway, but he was programmed with these certain words that if this individual would say these certain words, it would unlock this rage and unlock, this mindless pursuit to respond and to do their bidding. And he would say this series of words, boom, 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 boom. And whenever he heard those words, the super soldier, the winter soldier heard those words, he would attack. And so it's kind of like in our culture, you hear certain words, racism. It doesn't matter what's going on. You are blinded. You have blinders on. You're blocked out of any truth, facts. It doesn't matter. You are going to respond. Let's go riot. Let's go respond. Let's go just react. And so that's what they're doing. They're programmed. They're conditioned by words, and the state has done that. The media, look at mainstream media. There's a reason why I was in April. This is crazy. I was looking through Yahoo News and MSN News, and I literally ran across 100 articles. I'm not exaggerating. I counted them. 100 plus articles on race. Things dealing with race in our country. 100 articles, and that was in the course of a week. 100 articles on race. It was either some race. That's one of the articles I saw was that stoplights are racist. But racism and everything. It was one article after another about where racism is found. And so it's in everything on the news. This another person was, this racist person did this race. And now the word racism and race is programmed into your psyche that it's the worst thing you can be.
Right.
And you look at all of that. Listen, even to the extent that you got black folks murdering black folks at higher rates than they ever have before.
They
again,
minimize that and say, well, crime is everywhere.
There you go. And again, we're not going to make it about black folk this show, right? However, what I'm saying is,
we in crisis.
and so again, like the worst thing you can be is a racist. And they want to find racism in every minuscule kind of thing and ignore the elephant, right? Ignore the elephant, the huge, listen, let's focus on the camel. Let's swallow the camel and strain at that gnat. Let's strain at that gnat. Right. And so you ignore the big issues that still facing our community because you're so programmed by the word racism, because the worst thing you can be in our society is racism. And that's by design, because the left wants you to think that way. The left wants you to you're hateful if you don't agree with, hey, I was watching somebody's podcast the other day, came across my YouTube feed, and this guy said, listen, he didn't want to have sex with a trans girl, you know what I'm saying? Because that ain't really no girl. That's a dude, and that's gay. If I have sex with a trans person, and these group of girls, they were upset. They was cussing him out, saying that is hateful. He said, wait a minute.
Wait, they're trying to convince this man that he need to sleep with a man posing as a woman?
Yes, right. And if you don't want to, you're hateful, April. You're hateful. And so what are they doing? They're using a propaganda, they're using ideologies. They're forcing down the throats of individuals. They're hijacking terms so as to eliminate objective truth, and again to indoctrinate and hypnotize, in a sense, the nation, and so that everybody thinks with the group. And if you're a dissenter in any way, you're hateful, you're a bigot, you're racist. And notice they'll use the most extreme, the most incendiary terms to describe those who dissent. Listen, from the state.
I ain't built for this new world. I'm just not. I'm cut from a different cloth. I'd be like, there's no way that you're gonna try to convince me that up is down.
Right.
Like I am a contrarian by nature. So, like I said, I was born when I was born, because I'm not built for this new world, this new brave world we in. No, I'm not built for it. So basically, in this article, it is safe to say that the leftist ideology blatantly lies and pushes information to divide and stoke the flames of racism. So we've unpacked what was actually rejected. It wasn't Black history, right? Black history being taught at the collegiate level has never been rejected. What they were rejecting was the substance of this course and how they tried to bring in, under the guise of Black history, this sexual deviant behavior, queer ideology, and Black queer studies. I'm like, who asked for that? I don't know, but why? So I have this question here that says, why is there a connection between deviant sexual behavior and Black history? What message do you think they're trying to send?
Well, the number one, is that if I can categorize a behavior as a people group, right? If I can categorize a behavior as a people group, then again, we can multiply victim groups, which then in turn, well, first of all, let's turn the morality of the nation, get rid of sexual ethics, get rid of, again, objective standards, morality, and then let's multiply victim groups, because again, they're trying to dismantle and deconstruct what our society has been into something else.
So they have to connect this sexual deviant behavior to Black history, because
Yes.
it's like, well, Black people are Black, like that's inherent. They can't help
Thank you.
that, right? So
Right.
this deviant behavior, like, let's just lump it all together, and
Right.
it'll
Because it's the same
condition,
thing.
right? It'll condition people over time that there's no difference,
There's
and
no
that it's
difference.
all the same.
And
So,
but I want people to understand, like, tell me the behavioral component to being Black, right? What is the behavioral component to being Black? There is none. No. Notice that they want to, again, I'm Black, I'm Latino, I'm European, and then I like to have sex with men, and I'm a dude. And that's the same thing. And a long time ago, nobody would go for that. Nobody would go for that. But again, using the Marxist framework, which says groups of people are oppressed, and that group of people are oppressed, they are a people, their community, the LGBTQ community. Name a community that's characterized by the behavior, a sexual behavior.
Right. You not an inherent quality endowed by the creator.
Thank you. Right. So that's a behavior. Anyway.
So basically the state criticized the inclusion of a section about movement for Blacks, which basically was a coalition of more than 50 groups, including BLM, right, Black Lives Matter, and the National Conference of Black Lawyers. Now, it says that the group they want to abolish prisons, and that it alleges that there is a war against Black and transsexual Black people. Now, on the face of that, I would actually, so if they want to abolish prisons, that's a problem. So that basically means they want to champion lawlessness on purpose.
There you go.
Which is going to impact Black communities the most. But also, if we can champion this, that will help further erode the nuclear family, because now the restraints that even the scriptures say the state is endowed with the inherent right to restrain evil, they want to remove that restraint, to abolish prison. So we cannot punish the lawbreaker and the evildoer now. No, we can't do that. They need to be free. So they just want utter chaos and destruction.
That's it. Because if you can create that, April, watch this. Then you'll look back to the state. So the state creates this chaos.
Right.
Then you'll look back to the state to take care of it.
And then save us.
Yes. And so then the state becomes God. It takes God's place. And so the average person in government won't tell you that. They're not going to say that. And some of them may not even be thinking that. But they're used by Satan. And the deceiver, Satan, knows this. And that's the end, that because he's more cunning, he's 15 steps ahead of us. He's playing chess while the world is playing checkers. And so he knows that that's the end game, to make the state the end all be all, because then that sets up, watch this, the platform for the Antichrist. Now, I know I'm getting way ahead of us, but you get an Antichrist who comes along, and he becomes a public Messiah,
right,
who will save the world. Because he said, look who created this, all of the oppressors and all of the, and I'm telling you, I believe that this woke critical race theory, woke ideology, oppressor-oppressed paradigm, Marxism, that's laying the foundation for an Antichrist. Because the chaos that it will bring in will cause the world to be in utter chaos, and then they will look to someone to fix it.
And that's exactly what's happening in California. The lawlessness, no one gets locked up for stealing. They want it to be so bad that you come crawling to the government for answers. Wow, that's wicked. That's like wicked on its face. So it's funny that they allege that there's this war against the gay and transsexual Black people. if that was really happening, would we have people like actor Jussie Smollett like staging hate crimes? Like, like if this was really happening, like
Right.
people here manufacturing stuff.
Right.
We can just believe that. See, it's just the worst, the most unsafe people group that you can be a part of is be Black and a part of the LGBT community. Because
Right.
see, the MAGA people are coming after us left and right. Like,
right. They had to stage a MAGA attack.
Right. Right. Okay. Oh my God. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, Jamara Nelson. I appreciate your support. I don't know if you're a regular listener of the show, but we are glad to have you here. Thank you so much. That helps keeps the show funded, definitely. And so I'm grateful for that super chat. Thank you so much. So the next article, y'all, this one right here. This one, no, that ain't it. Sorry. Let me get it. This one made me so mad that this one made me very mad. It was the no voting, no bucking video. I don't know if it, so let me take it off and then I'm gonna put it back on. All right. Give me one quick second. I'm gonna share it because this one had me done. This one had me done. I don't know if y'all. Let me let it load. It's low. Why it's taking so long? It's coming.
So, oh, you got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's just I don't know. I'm struggling right now. So let me see if I can get my husband to screen it. Just a second. Kids. Black America condemns pandering, no vote bill put out by dating apps. And so we talk about nuclear family. Reason why this aristocracy at work again. If you're new to the know who the aristocracy term that so termed talk about the politicians and the professors, the folly of the culture, unique position to give constructive messaging to indoctrinate us various weekend nuclear. Like I said, the government needs to be God, and if they do this, they have to be positioned in order to usher theology. When I had heard about it, and I'm surprised I didn't do video. It was so vile.
Right.
I just want self-control. Democracy at work. These are the that has been my age. Is documenting rhyme.
Hey, April, can you hear me? April, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm losing you a little bit.
I can hear you. Hold on. Are you? I can hear. I don't. It's the quality of the team. I don't know. Oh, wow, it's okay. I'll fix it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but I haven't heard a whole lot of what you just said before that.
Really is like 3 out of 10. Let me see if I can refresh my screen. Please be patient. Okay, I managed to refresh the browser. Can y'all hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me now? Okay, yeah, I know it was breaking up really bad. I had to something's going on with the internet connection. It seems to be better now. Let me just check in with the live stream. Okay, it is better. Thank you, Fran, for letting me know. If everything sounds better, can y'all just type a 1 in the live chat, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. It was the internet signal. So I'm gonna go ahead and start over. Um, what I was saying was this when this actually happened in the fall, I had a really difficult time. I couldn't get over it because I was so upset. Here you have this is the performer's aspect of the Afrocracy, right? We have this, like I said, this old has-been rapper Trina, who's my age, who has no business rapping, and I'm not sure what's happening here. I don't know, but this was last year. This was a video that depicts two young Black singles chatting through an app, and it ends with the implication that they have intercourse after the man decides to vote. So basically, they're painting this picture that, you know, I'm so politically engaged that I'm not even going to be promiscuous and sleep with you unless I know you've gone to the polls and voted, which is so vile and so disgusting. But the Democratic Party was behind this because they love to pander to Black people, and the video is insulting. It is tasteless. It's an indication of what Democrats really think about the Black community.
Exactly.
So go ahead, your take and commentary on this one and how it impacts or how it's a threat to the nuclear family.
Yeah. And so recall I talked about pop culture, right? And so, and you know, like you said, the Afrocracy, you know, one being the performers, the performers become informers of culture. They become informers of culture. And so what are they promoting? Sexual promiscuity, sexual irresponsibility, right? And so that automatically breaks down the nuclear family. Why? Because that contributes to the already on house on fire issue of father absence, right? Because now you got folks with okay, so you got that father absence on one side and the other house on fire issue, which is the out of control abortion rates in the Black community, right? And so when that's the deal, you got father absence and then abortions. Like, I can fix that father absence for you. Let's kill them babies, right? And so then the idea is, well, here's where this is all taking place. You're stuck in this cycle of none of that's even taking place in a marriage, because we're not even thinking marriage. We're not even thinking nuclear family. We're not even thinking that, first of all, that this is the place where sex, again, because I said the function of the nuclear family was to promote a sexual ethic in which sex is supposed to take place within the marriage institution. And children are supposed to come forth from within the marriage institution. And so the thing I'm so disgusted by is that our people can't see how the Democratic woke leftist, you know, folks, this is how they view you. You and Margaret Sanger said, this is how I view you. You are weeds out of control. Let's gerrymander and pander to these people. You're weeds out of control. You're animals who just breed, and we want to do away with you. So let's let you self-destruct. You can't help but have a bunch of kids out of wedlock. You can't help but have sexually irresponsible behavior. You can't help it. And nobody should speak against it because we're going to call that racist. So, let's use these performers.
So they put a label on every try to hold the community.
Yeah.
I think it's the what I was saying is when you try to hold the community accountable.
Yes, absolutely. Let's demonize anybody who has anything to say about correction, right? Let's demonize anybody who has anything to say about the introspective behavior, being introspective. Let's be responsible. Let's talk about nuclear. Anybody who talks about that, you're a white. If you're black, you're oppressor sympathizer. You're sympathizing with your oppressor, or you're siding with your oppressor.
Right.
And your Uncle Tom, your coon. If you're white, you're racist. You're white supremacist trying to enforce your values upon us. Because to enforce your values upon us means we don't have a value system of family, right? You're trying to put nuclear family on us. We don't want nuclear family. We want irresponsibility. We want children with no dads. They're trying to say that's who we are. That's what we want. So leave us alone. Let us do what we do. And so just like Margaret Sanger used strategic Negro pastors, the culture uses strategic Negro performers to indoctrinate the masses.
This is so hurtful for me because, despite what people think, they're like, you always got criticism for the left. You don't never say nothing about the right. And, you're right. I don't say enough about the right. And I have chosen, I've got some content coming because I do have some grave issues with the right. But the reason why that's an unfair categorization because I don't see people on the right pushing this deviant behavior in an effort to demoralize my people. Right. So I'm going to speak up and say something about it. I don't care that that's your party, right? I don't care. I'm on the side of righteousness. So you can come with your comments in my comment section like, I ain't talking about Democrats. You darn skip because they're the ones pushing this. They paid for this foolishness. And what makes it even more sinister is that Trina's a Black woman like me, and she'd rather take the check and participate in this debased, disgusting music video so that she can live high off the hog with no regard to the young girls behind her who are going to listen to this. And now, she didn't say this, but I wonder sometimes if, this music wouldn't bother kids because they wouldn't even know who I am. And she's right. Like, my kids don't know who she is. My kids don't listen to this stuff. But it's like, do you not feel some sort of social responsibility within yourself? Like, where's your moral compass that you just thought that, this would be a good idea. Let me write some verses for this. So listen to this. In a press release from BLK, they published on Black America Web, they say, this is what they try to tell us, that the purpose of the video was to command a new generation of voters to shift the culture and make their voices heard. But my question is, are they saying anything of value? Because this is not valuable to us. This is not helping. And then they call people like me the sellout. Right. I'm the one that was labeled a Sambo Uncle Tom Bedouin because messaging. Make that. To me, these are the true sellouts. So this ad went out. It went viral. And listen to some of the lyrics. So this person says, "Wanna hit this booty? Gotta do your civic duty." And I don't even want to read the next line. If the coochie is gold, go hit the pole. Like,
wow.
Who asked for this?
Wow.
Who asked for this? Where was the congressional Black who claimed to be so pro-Black? Where were they?
Mm-hmm.
Where were they on this? Where was this is the stuff the NWCC should be fighting against, but instead they co-sign to this foolishness. And like you said, Brian, all this does is perpetuate the sexual irresponsible behavior, which feeds the abortion industry, right? Which feeds the school to prison pipeline, which feeds the out of wedlock birth rate, which feeds a strong chasm between Black men and Black women, and just families just don't exist anymore. Like, what is a family at that point?
There you go. Absolutely.
There's like no family. Is there anything else you want to say about it? I don't need like discussing this because it's just so disgusting.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about the scripture. It says, listen, it's a shame to even speak of those things that are done to them in secret, right? Like, right. but you're so right. Like Michelle Obama's name popped up as a part of the support for this somewhere down the line. And again, like we're supposed to be so advanced and progressive, yet we would promote such a deplorable message to our people. Again, that I'm embarrassed to say that they targeted the community of colored people to say, this is who you are. This is who you are. And it's sad. The sad thing is that we did see, and kudos, major big ups to the folks who were outraged about that, right? And wrote this article and said, hey, no, this is terrible. This is foolishness. Right. Big ups to them. But do you believe that the average person that they were actually targeting saw the problem in it? That's the sad thing. Like the individuals that they were targeting, I don't have this sense that that the average teenager who was at the voting, at the voting age, that the average college student, the average young adult, who was in that range of target audience, that they actually had a compass and a moral anchor that said, yo, that's a problem with me, as opposed to, yo, I can rock with that. Right. You know what I mean? It's like that's the problem right there.
Right. So let me just name some of the people who were associated with this. You have Michelle Obama, Steph Curry, Becky G, S. Gomez, Tom Hanks, guess that's a singer, Liza Koshy, J-Lo, wow, Lynn Miranda, Janelle Monáe, Chris Paul, Megan Rapinoe, Shonda Rhimes, queen of the thought storyline. Wow. Bretman Rock, Kerry Washington, and Rita Wilson. Those are the ones who were basically who sanctioned the ad. It says no voting, no fucking ad on T-Black dating app is bi. So those are the people who thought that was a good idea to pump that into the heads of first time voters. Black men pandemic racism and important issues. Yet when we all vote, those people that I named targeted us with no voting, no fucking. They would never target white voters with this disrespectful garbage. Yeah. No. Bishop Talbot Swan, who I'm not a big fan of, wrote that and tagged Obama. I thought that was nice. But it was funny because Figueroa wanted her, said it would remove her misinformed tweet. I don't see how it's misinformed, but they claimed that the journalist took them out of context, but explained it was her opinion and the onus still falls on them when we all vote because they approved their name to be associated with the video. So these indeed, as you said, are threats, believe it or not, to the nuclear family because of the messaging that it sends. It definitely doesn't promote family. Not at all. It promotes the sexual promiscuity that, you don't need to be sexually responsible. You can just participate in this in exchange for voting.
Right.
I'm trying to even understand the connection. Like, so, and it's not just vote for who you want. No, they don't. They show are not saying, oh well, as long as you vote, we don't care who you vote for. We'll sleep with you. It's like, no, you got to vote for time. Because conservative kind of circles taking in this kind of messaging, at least I don't think they are. I could be wrong. But I don't know. This whole thing was a mess. It was an absolute mess. Did you want to move on to the third article?
Yeah, let me share this one thing. It's an article that I pulled from a quote. It's a young lady who wrote this article, and she talked about how she was exasperated and just fed up with the themes that are coming through the music and the culture. She said, listen, the title, mainstream hip hop is deteriorating Black communities, and I'm sick of it. That's what this young lady wrote. She said, the writer went on to say, I hate that my community, after so much progress, still has to continue rehashing the same narrative. I'm sick of the negativity and the celebration of pain. Can we rap about something positive for once? So they said, hey, we're rapping about something positive, voting. But notice you bring in the same old trash that's been trashing our community to do it. We can't just separate ourselves. We have to be continually, perpetually associated with the poison. Here's what this young lady wrote, and I'll wrap it up. Quote, I'm sick of this mainstream foolishness and poison. It seeps into the brains of our children. When we take a second to actually think about the current state of the music, how is it helping us other than giving us a catchy beat to dance to? It doesn't inspire or challenge us. It brainwashes and promotes ignorance.
It does. I would agree wholeheartedly with that statement. So far, we're halfway through the show. We've talked about 2 of the 3 threats to the nuclear family. And I hope you guys know and understand that our goal, we'll get to the empowerment part, but before we can empower you to do something different, we kind of just got to let you know and make the connection to analyzing these are the things that's going on in the culture that are a threat to the nuclear family, and how if these threats are not confronted with truth and with opposition, that they already have a foothold in the culture. But it can easily grab a foothold of your own children if you are not on guard as parents. If you are not, holding the line, making sure that you take thoughts captive, because all of this is trying to elevate itself against the knowledge of God, whether it's the fact that you don't need to be married to have sex and it's okay to be a baby mama, and you're a victim, and forget working hard by the sweat of your brow and earning stuff that you should just get it just because of the color of your skin. Like all of these things, these are messages that children learn at home from their parents.
Yep.
But if they're being raised by people who actually support this mess, sometimes I'm just like, there's apart from the gospel, there's no hope for any of this, because the gospel is the only thing that can shed light on this and be like, you see how darkened your heart is?
Right.
Do you see how you're living in opposition to who created you? He did not create you for this. And we know he didn't create you for this because nothing good is coming from this. All that's coming from this is death and destruction and despair and poverty and misery, and none of the things that are good and righteous and holy. Like, this is not light. This is darkness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the point that you brought out there, and that's all true. Thank you for saying those things. Is that it never brings people to the point of self-reflection such that they one see themselves as being offenders against a holy God,
right,
repenting of their sin, because they're stuck in the mode of I'm a victim and that's why I'm like this. And so I'm never going to look outside of myself for the solution that comes from God. I'm going to look at myself as a victim, and I'm stuck. It's designed to keep you stuck in that cycle. It's designed never to have you self-reflective. So that's the sad part. That's the nefarious part of it.
Right, right. Well, what we're gonna do, guys, we're just gonna take a quick little break because the girl needs some water. Like I'm not empowered with no hydration here. My tongue is sticking to the roof of my mouth at this point. I I need some water. So we're gonna take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're gonna discuss the emasculation of the black male image and what what is happening that's destroying the black male image, and how do we rebuild that image? Or do you even agree that there is an agenda to emasculate the black man? We're going to talk about all of that and more. We'll be right back.
God is sovereign over everything. He is sovereign over the entire universe. He is sovereign over nature. He literally has created everything that exists out of nothing.
It is the doctrine of sovereign election that empowers and ignites missions, and it is the doctrine of sovereign election that guarantees the success of missions around the world.
We will not build the church according to the changing whims of an ungodly culture. We will change that ungodly culture by the power of the immutable gospel.
All I have is God wrapped himself in flesh, died on a cross, nailed my sin thereto, was placed in the grave, rose again on the third day, ascended to the right hand of the Father, and is there making intercession for me until such time as my salvation is completed and he takes me home.
The more they see, the more they will love him. Stop giving them all this silly fodder and life principles and lay before them. Live your life in solitude, crying out to God. Live your life on your knees. Live your life with your Bibles torn asunder. Live your life for the people of God to be able to present to them the beauty of what he is, the glory of his cross.
There is no such thing as Mother Nature. God rules and reigns over everything. There's not a leaf that falls from a tree that God did not call it to fall at that very moment. God is in control of every single thing, meticulously ruling over the entire universe. Join us for the 2023 G3 National Conference on the Sovereignty of God.
And we're back. Don't forget to register for the G3 conference. It is still possible to save yourself some money. Use my code G3STP for 30% off. You saw the ad. You've been seeing the ad. The sovereignty of God matters. We need to have the discussion, and I want you guys to meet me here in Atlanta this fall, September 21st through the 23rd at the G3 conference. Listen to some God-honoring preaching, fellowship with your brothers and sisters in the Lord. Come get you some biblical resources, and if nothing else, I just want to come meet you and hug your neck because I just want to meet you. I do. So y'all come out, join me, register for the conference. I'm gonna go ahead, and I don't have a QR code for the conference, but you can go to g3men.org. Go to the events tab and you will see all of your registration there. Hotels are filling up. So if you can't find yourself a room, I would suggest you do Airbnb. Sometimes it comes out being cheaper anyway. So look what I got. Thank you, Lord. Taste and see. Yes, indeed. Okay. In the second half of the show, we're going to discuss the emasculation of the black male image. Brian, tell me, do you believe that the black male image, as we know it, has been emasculated? And if so, why do you believe this?
Yeah. So there's a history of this. So we can go back and we can make the case that black masculinity even coming out of slavery and through slavery in America has been to tear down the image of strong black masculinity has been a thing. In Hollywood, ever since it's the inception of blacks on screen, black men on screen, they make them submissive. Black men on screen, they can't articulate well. They can't look white men in the eye. They don't stand in stature. And then it becomes black men wear dress, right? Put them in makeup, so that evolved to, black men, who couldn't get on screen unless they were feminized. Or black men who now become subservient to their own black wives. Subservient to their own black wives. Or
say that again. Say it again.
So
you gotta say that loud.
Right. Black men who have evolved in the eyes of mainstream media and in culture to be those who are subservient to their wives, and they are following, people will argue with this, but you saw isn't Rihanna's beau is ASAP Rocky?
Yeah, that's her baby daddy.
The baby daddy, ASAP Rocky, and the what was it? I don't know if it was Ebony Jet. What was the magazine? Vogue. Okay, the Vogue magazine where he's carrying the baby, he's behind her, and she's out front,
looking like a simp.
You know what I'm saying? And so he like, look, yeah, we'll follow behind you, Riri. You don't hit the billionaire status, and we'll follow behind you. And and black men, all we see you as in culture, either you're just these violent gangsters, the gangsterization of black men, right? Or you are feminine, right? We don't want you on unless you're playing a gay role. You know what I'm saying? We don't want you on unless you're playing a gay role. Or you do what your strong-willed wife says, right? You lead our family the way she tells you to.
I see that every day. Every day. I can't tell you how many, people come in my store, and it'll be a couple, and that man has no voice. Y'all remember The Little Mermaid when Ariel's singing and the big Mino witch just steal a voice and you just see it going in the air? It's like the man when he come in my store.
Wow.
I be like, your voice box gone. She done took your voice. He has no say. They are so disrespectful. They treat him like he's like the extra child, right? It's just like, we gonna do this, and and then they just sit back like, and I just be like, what would you like, sir? Do you like this one? And then she'll just jump in and be like, he don't have no this going in the main room. I'm like, what? I be wanting to be like, so you just gonna stand here and let her talk to you like that? And I try to combat it, and I'll say stuff like, but he looks like he works so hard. I'm sure he wants some say in this. Like, I'm trying to be polite about it, but right. I really want to be like, ma'am, don't do this. Like, it's embarrassing. But I see it all the time. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Yeah.
So continue.
So yeah, and so I recall this, and I actually cited this in my book, but Dave Chappelle, talked about, this syndrome in Hollywood where, it is a thing that they wanted to put black men in a dress. So you saw everybody. And I was like, is that true? Most black male actors have either played a gay role. If you're successful, you've either played a gay role or you've been in a dress, except for Denzel, I think.
I don't think I've seen him in a dress.
I don't think I've seen Denzel in a dress, but you have Wesley Snipes, Eddie Murphy, Chris
Martin
Lawrence. And so,
what's the other boy? Jamie Foxx,
just about 90% of them. And so Dave Chappelle was like, he was in that movie with Martin, Blue Streak. And he was like, yo, the producers came to him and said, yo, you know what? This would be hilarious, Dave. We think we ought to put you in a dress. We make you, you need to wear a dress. He said, whoa, wait a minute. Why do I need to wear a dress? I don't even think that was written in the original script. But they were like, yo, this is hot right now. We need to put you in a dress. This'll smash. This'll sell. People they don't think this is hilarious. And he was like, nah, I ain't doing it. He said, because no, I got my morals. I got standards. He said, I'm not doing it. And he said, man, they went back and forth with him. They were talking about, they tried to put the guilt trip on him. Man, you're messing up you're killing the budget here, so and so on. He's like, I'm not doing it. And eventually it went his way. He didn't put the dress on. I saw the Blue Streak movie. However, it was, Tyler Perry. They're like, look,
he stayed in the dress.
He's like, look, stay in the dress. But he's huge. He's got his own studio. But at what cost? He's got his own studio. He's making billions. But at what cost, right? Because he was able to enable the imagery that Hollywood wants, which is to feminize. Why? And again, I think it's a nefarious mission in Hollywood, but I think again, it also is the spirit of the evil one, which is inspiring individuals to tear down the image of father, strong leader in the home. Because if I can get you a submissive, feminized person, you're not thinking strong father leader. You're not. I'm sorry. You can argue all day that, he can still be a father. What's the one dude? Billy, whatever his name is. He put on he's wearing a dress.
Yeah.
He wears a dress, got a big old goatee, wearing a gown, a dress, and he was in the latest iteration of Cinderella. He was the fairy god mother or something like that.
Right.
Anyway, but again, this is the imagery that you can't get on screen these days as a black man, 9 times out of 10, unless you're willing to be feminized in some way, unless you're willing to be gay, put a dress on, or be emasculated by your woman.
It's funny that you mentioned that about Tyler Perry, because when I think about the Medea character, like I know so many black women who embody that character, and I don't understand why a woman could not have played that role.
Right.
Like just an actual biological woman.
Right.
Like so many of our Mimas and Medeas.
Right.
Who, I mean, now my grandmother wasn't 6 feet, like she was 4'11", but she was I'ma bake you a cake, I'ma rub your back, but somebody mess with my grandbaby, I'm coming downstairs in my slip and my church shoes, and I'ma fight you. Like that was my great grandma.
Billy Porter.
Billy Porter. That's
Billy
right.
Porter. My wife just sent that to me. Billy Porter.
I'm making up people names. Y'all forgive me. I meant Billy Porter. But yeah, like why couldn't they have cast, like my grandmother, she didn't go on to glory, but they could have easily found a black actress to play that role, even if they had to put her in an exaggerated fat suit. None of us could have played that. You actually had to be the 6-foot man and be Medea with the gun in the purse, like
because that's hilarious, April. That's hilarious. That sells. It would have
been funny. The Medea character, it is an exaggerated version of somebody's Mima that we know. But a black woman could have easily played that part, and kept the series going without because now it's almost normal. When I see Tyler Perry when he's not dressed like a woman, it's weird. I be looking at him like you just look out of place. Like he's supposed to be a woman because I've been conditioned to see him that way.
Right. Watch this. So there was an NPR radio show host. And I cited this in my book. The University of California School of Cinema and Television critical studies professor Todd Boyd had this to say about the whole idea of Tyler Perry and the emasculation of men in Hollywood. Says somehow Tyler Perry's new book, Don't Make a Black Woman Take Her Earrings Off, so I guess that's a book he wrote, ended up on the New York Times bestsellers list as well. What's up with this? Why do these performers emasculate themselves, and why are audiences so eager to see the black man humiliated in this manner? Perhaps by feminizing the image of black masculinity, some people are made to feel less threatened and more comfortable. Perhaps the cross-dressing black man is a way to neutralize the image of the empowered black men in hip-hop culture. Perhaps, because no, that ain't the case.
No.
Perhaps some entertainers will do anything for a laugh and a dollar. So that's a secular view of it. But again, I believe it's a part of that plan and that scheme to tear down. Again, let's go back to the nuclear family. What's the thing that's ailing families in general, but the black family in particular? Males, fathers in the saddle and at the center of the home.
Right. Male headship.
And so, again, when you see young boys, when they look up, what do they see? They see an image of a man who looks like them that's anything other than a father. You want to see an image of someone who's either, again, the thugified guy, right? So you got the thugification of black men, or the emasculation, or the man who womanizes, right? You're right. The man who womanizes. Let's sleep with as many women as I can, and
Have a
let's
bunch of babies like, was it Nick Cannon?
Nick Cannon. So let me attach an image to Nick Cannon of manhood, or feminized, right? But we don't want it. We want anything other than a male who's a thinker and leader and a loving leader of his home as a father.
Right.
So
That you don't see that. And if you actually, as we've seen in recent history, when you actually have a black male figure that positions himself as, hey, I'm a heterosexual man, I'm advocating for masculinity, I want to empower men to lead in their homes, they don't get the notoriety. In fact, there are campaigns to cancel them. Y'all have to say what y'all want about Kevin Samuels. But Kevin Samuels, I would say, was probably the most modern, foremost man that empowered men to have a voice and to not worry about what the culture was going to say about it.
Right.
You didn't have to agree with his views, but he had a voice. He made his voice known. And he was actually saying, it's good to be a man. And I personally don't think he was the most masculine. You know what I'm saying? But I respected him. I respected what he stood for, because we were like, wait a minute, we have a man. And he has a voice.
Right.
And black women wanted him canceled because he had the nerve to say, y'all need to be held accountable. Because I spent 5+ years holding men accountable. Now it's your turn. And they did not like that at all. Like, he's not even alive anymore.
Right.
And they trying to stomp him deeper into the grave.
Exactly. Like, oh, get rid of that image. And you know what, April, one of the things that's so disheartening about Bill Cosby's legacy, the thing that was so disheartening about him is that he was an American iconic image of a father in a nuclear, the nuclear family, and which we know, based on what has come out, all that has come out, that image has been tarnished, and based on his personal life and things like that. And so I'm not in any way saying that we should prop up Bill Cosby as anything, right? However, it's very sad that the image of who he was has been tarnished by the things that have come out, because it was a great image, right? That we had someone who represented fatherhood in the nuclear family.
Exactly. Yeah, it was sad. So the article that we have here, I'm gonna share it. It's not that notable, but it points out the emasculation of the black male image. Now this is a dated article. This is from 2018, and we are so past. Like, we are eons away from what this article was trying to come across, or at least communicate to us back then. But it's the image of the black man has been marginalized and emasculated to the point in which his impact is negligible at best. The reason why I would agree with that, we saw that in the last Georgia gubernatorial election.
Wow.
With Stacey Abrams, who basically ignored the black male constituent, told them that, had her and all her little leftist, wicked Jezebel, gynocratic cheerleaders say, y'all just need to get in line, right? We saw that happen during her campaign, and it cost her the election. And I'm so glad that black men stood up, was like, no, we know who you are, what you represent, and we're not buying what you're selling. But black male voices, would you agree that they are not as significant, and that they are shouted down by their own women? Because it's rare to find a black woman who voluntarily uplifts and praises a black man. But would you agree that the stage is ripe and it's set, and that modern women now have been indoctrinated to literally shout their men down.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's. I'll point to a pop culture example of that, and
Okay.
then let's look at an example of a very public marriage that we all know of, and I think you know where I'll go with that. But look at the latest Wakanda movie, right?
Oh, I didn't watch that, man.
The Wakanda movie. You know, there were aspects of it that, you know, I was, because I'm a big MCU fan and my kids are, there were aspects of it that I liked based on watching just an MCU movie, you know, just seeing Wakanda, because I, you know, I like the narrative of, you know, of Marvel. However, it was horrible the way that they projected the women of Wakanda, you know, just basically the queen, the women, you know, the men in the nation really had no voices. They
Really?
weren't
I haven't seen the movie, so you have to educate me.
right. So the men in the movie really had no voices of Wakanda. Put it that way, the men of Wakanda. And so here you had, you know, there was this king of another nation, which happened to be the South American nation. It was a you know, Latino Hispanic antagonist of the movie. He attacks Wakanda, right? T'Challa's dead. T'Challa dies, and the queen is now, you know, the leader. They're looking for a new Black Panther. They wanted to, you know, to get another guy from you know, one of the other tribes to do it, but basically the women of Wakanda took over the nation. Okay, really? The women of Wakanda took over the nation. They were the leaders. The next Black Panther was, you know, Shuri, which was T'Challa's sister. And you know, there was this, you know, they even had, you know, there was this, one of the warrior women was in a lesbian relationship with, you know, with one of the other ones, the Dora Milaje.
I'm sorry, what?
The Dora Milaje women, they had a, you know,
no, before that,
they made one of them lesbians, because Disney's into the whole Disney's into the whole, you know, LGBTQ woke thing now, right? It's got to be one of those images in every film now.
We gotta have representation.
We gotta have representation.
Okay.
Okay. And so the smartest people in the nation, all women, right? You know, the people who were capable of leading the nation politically and diplomatically were all women. And the men were just these brutes. The men who were left behind were just brutes who really weren't capable of leading. Now, do you think that was by accident?
No, that was done over. Like, where is that happening in real life in a society that has ever flourished?
Right. The person who had to protect the nation was the skinniest girl, which was T'Challa's sister, the skinniest girl, and she was the smartest person in the nation, and she became the strongest, right? And so anyway, I think that symbolic, you know, that was symbolic of how people view, you know, Black families and family. You know, particularly, and a lot of you know, unfortunately, Black women have adopted that view. Now, let's look at an example of a very highly a high profile couple, the Smiths, right? Will and Jada Smith, the Pinkett Smiths,
right?
You know, the Pinkett Smiths, and so, wow, what can I say? So I saw a recent article that their son Jaden is modeling for Louis Vuitton. I believe he's modeling for Louis Vuitton. I believe he's been a part of Louis Vuitton. He's been a part of a Louis Vuitton campaign previously where he was wearing a dress. But in this article, this Louis Vuitton article, I mean, he's standing, you know, in such the most feminine way you could stand as a man. He's got this thing on that looks like I don't even know how you describe it.
It was like a jacket, but it was like a cropped jacket.
Yeah, this crop. I mean,
the arms are full.
Yeah, as femme as you can get. You know, as femme as you can get. So I say that to say, go back a little bit. I remember Will talking about how him and Jada decided that they were going to raise their kids in a very progressive way, right?
I have that article pulled up. Yeah. Well, you kind of skipped ahead, because what I was gonna do was I was gonna reiterate that common theme But we might as well just go ahead. Listen, this foolishness.
Okay, so you got it.
This
Okay.
is the threat. This is another threat that y'all probably didn't realize. It is a threat to the nuclear family when Brother Shannon goes and dissects the ideology and the parenting method that Will adopted and thought was a good idea, right? So basically, this is inside Will Smith's unorthodox parenting philosophies and how he raised these 3 unique kids in Hollywood. So the first thing I want to do is highlight.
You got the right article up?
Yeah, this is the one right here.
Because I see the emasculation of the black male image.
Oh, you sure do. Okay, hold on. I'm looking at it, but I have to reshare it. Hold on. Let's reshare it. There we go. And let's get it back up there. All right. So this is inside. First of all, his parenting philosophy, number one, is he doesn't punish them, right? Instead, and this is a dated article, but this gives you the insight as to understand why we see what we see now. This is the fruit. This was the foundation that was laid, and now we see the fruit. Basically, doesn't punish them, but instead he makes them take responsibility for their own actions. We don't do punishment. The way we deal with our kids is that they're responsible for their lives. So you're putting minor children in the driver's seat. They don't have developed brains. Their intellect and reason has not been exercised or stretched enough to be able to know what to do in certain circumstances. And Will explained, and this is back in a 2013 interview, he goes, our concept is as young as possible. Give them as much control over their lives as possible. And the concept of punishment, our experience has been, it has little too much of a negative quality. Go ahead and talk about that for a bit, because I'm a mama and
listen, let's contrast that with what the Bible says. The Bible says, if you withhold correction from your child, you actually hate him. You withhold correction from your child. And let me first of all, let me preface with this. None of us are perfect parents. Okay.
Right.
I'm not saying that, a value judgment to say that I'm so much better of a parent, that I'm such a superior parent, that I've done everything right, that I've always, that I'm the perfect parent. No, not saying that. Okay. So with humility, right? Full disclosure, things, we all got to learn. We've all learned. However, we have the blueprint. We understand and we know the blueprint, which is the word of God.
Amen.
To withhold correction means and in fact, it says that by applying correction to your child, you actually save his soul from destruction.
Amen.
And so to hear him say, we don't believe we need to correct our children to bring discipline. We want them to figure it out on their own. What are you creating? You're creating conditions for lawlessness. And how does this impact the nuclear family? So they have a mother and father in the home. So would you say they have a nuclear family? Well,
yes.
Sure.
In the sense that the two of them are physically present.
Right.
But remember, our argument has been the configuration of this family and the values that come from both. This I wouldn't consider a traditional nuclear family. Why? Will ain't in charge. And one of my subscribers said, Jada comes from a generation of Jezebel.
Wow.
So you got right there, you're already
right.
It's out of order.
Yep.
Out of order.
And let me tell you something. I'm not a betting man. I'm not a gambling man. But I am willing to bet you that they fought over that was not Will Smith's initial sentiment to lead his family that way. I am willing to bet you that they fought over that and he caved. That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement, but I'm willing to bet you that he fought her on that on some level, and he wanted to do, but she wanted that, and he caved to that, and that became the mantra or the value, the values of the family. Okay, because he said out of his own mouth that he wanted to keep his family together at all costs, and so what he was willing to sacrifice was his own voice, right? And a lot of things to keep his family together, because he didn't want to have to deal with the stigma or the issue of having a divorce from Jada.
You know what? We need to camp there just for a little bit, because that statement is so real. I know a lot of men who made a bad choice and picked the wrong woman, bred with the woman, had children from this woman, and they know she is a piece of work and will never submit or get on their program. But they stay because they know what it's like to be a product of a broken home. And they stay, but then they end up, this is the result. Like you get this. I don't even have the answer. Because I don't advocate divorce biblically. I don't even know, like, what does a man do in a situation like that? I mean, apart from Christ, like if you're dealing with a man who's regenerated and realizes, okay, she's not regenerated, and this is the mother of my children, and this is the value system that she's trying to instill in them. Some men choose peace over truth.
Right.
Some men do that. Some men choose peace over truth. And then you have some men that are like, I can't fix this. I'm a believer. I can't fix this. I'm relying on the power of the Holy Spirit. I'm going to love her as Christ loved the church, and I'm going to stay, and I'm going to just do the best that I can, raise my children in fear and admonition of the Lord. But I've got this opposition because my one flesh partner is a tool of Satan. Like, and you're a man. You tell me, what would you do? What do you do?
Listen, that's a tough question, but I would imagine that and thank God. I mean, let me just say, big up. I thank God. Big up to my wife. I appreciate her. My love. My life partner. My wife of my youth. She is a supportive wife, and she follows me, and she allows me to lead. She's a strong woman, right? And she has an opinion, but at the end of the day, she allows me to lead our family by allowing God to have his way. And she listens to the leading of the Lord in my life for our family. And so I thank God for her. Big ups to my wife, Tony Shannon.
Let's celebrate. Yes, I love it.
And so I say that to say, I would imagine that man has to be at the deepest place of prayer. If you're talking about a believer, right? Like, what would you do as a man or just a believing man? I don't know.
Let's do both. Let's do both.
Okay.
You're an unregenerate man. You don't know the Lord, but you know rebellion when you see it, right?
Okay. Yep. As an unregenerate man, I'm gonna be honest with you. Either you do the Will Smith, or you do the Chris Rock. Here's what I mean by that. and you know what? No, I didn't mean to make a correlation with Chris Rock and Will Smith at all. Like, but I just heard Chris Rock talking about how he was divorced, and let me use a different example. The Steve Harvey. He said, "Look here, man. Like, I couldn't work that out with my baby's mom and stuff and so on. So he said, listen, I left that situation, but I had beautiful kids out of that, but I had to get a new situation. And so man, he leaves that and gets a new situation, and until he finds the right situation. The unregenerate man, there's no other recourse for anything else that he would want to do. Look, I can't do this right here. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm looking for a reason to stick around. If I can't find one, I'm out. Or you say, hey, listen, the thing that I fear is public. If I'm a man who fears public scrutiny, if I fear the element of the unknown, of chaos with relationship, because I fear recycling and recreating what I grew up in, and I don't want to create that. There's a conscience that's tied to that, as what I believe has happened to Will. He didn't want a divorce because he's like, look, his divorce from his first wife, he wanted more than anything to keep that together. He didn't want that feeling again. That did hurt him. That did hurt him. And he was hurt by that. He wanted to be with her. And so he couldn't work it out. And so he's like, look, I don't want that again. And so he he believed he loved Jada, but Jada became this piece of work.
Jada was always a piece of work.
Right, you're right. She was always a piece of work. Comparing him to Tupac, and she really, Tupac was really who he was. Look, I mean, the dagger in that man's heart had to be when his daughter, they said something like Willow was praying
yes!
to Tupac. Praying to
so
Tupac,
my
like,
mama could be happy.
I wish my mama could be happy. I wish you could have been my daddy. Wow. Like, how does that make a man feel? You know, he always
How
talks
does
about
she
how,
even know that?
right.
Unless her mama is
Unless her
having
mama having a
grown-up
conversation. Well, and
with her.
you know the mama is, because they got these red table talks. So and so here it is. Will is he's scared to death of, there's this fear of dealing with that issue, dealing with that chaos, dealing with that disruption and dysfunction, where you're staying in dysfunction to, evade further dysfunction. I don't know.
Right.
And so that's a sad thing. And you got to respect a part of him. Let me just say, there's a part of him I respect by wanting to hold it together, right? By wanting to be that beacon and that bastion of hope in his family, to hold it down, hold it together, because that's what a man is. So that tells me he's a man because he wants to hold it together. However, he was not wanting to go against what he knows that was against his values. I believe his value. I don't know him, and I can't say for 100% certain, but I believe his values were much different than Jada's.
So do you think, looking hindsight's 2020, no, and I believe his values were different, because there's no way that you are the Fresh Prince rapper, right? Like you not putting out that kind of rap unless you got some kind of value system that, like, because think about when Will was hot, you had hardcore gangster rap, Public Enemy, like all this other adversarial type music was coming out, and he was just like, hey, that's not me. Like, I'm not that guy.
I'm not that dude.
Be that, right? Guys who are like that, they have some sort of value system to where the idea to want to keep your family together comes from somewhere.
Exactly. And watch this. Remember in the last show I was on with you, we talked about that syndrome of the woman who grows up with these daddy issues and she looks to thugs.
Yeah.
And she has the thug affinity. I want a roughneck. I want a thug. And that's a daddy. At the core of that is a daddy issue. And I can't relate to that good guy because he's too nice.
He's too nice.
Will is the too nice dude. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, she saw him as a catch because he was a great actor. He was crushing it in Hollywood, crushing it on the music scene. And she saw him as a catch and like, okay, well, maybe I can't let that slide. He's got money. But he's really the nice dude that I really don't want to rock with because I want a Tupac.
Right. Yeah, she wanted to be yoked up in the neck.
Right. I want a thug. I want a roughneck. Right. And so I think you got all of that dynamic going on in there. However, when you fast forward, what became of the family dynamic, and again, we're on the outside looking in. We can't say definitively sure, but we can look at the fruit of it and say, okay, there's some telltale signs of some things that we know are true. When you saw their children, it's like, okay, let's make a conclusion. Was that a good idea to say, let your kids raise themselves? Is that a good idea to say, let them come up with their own rules for life? Is it a good idea? Because again, let's go back to what is the purpose of the nuclear family? To instill value, to shape and mold. What does the Bible say? Fathers, mothers, raise your children in the way that they should go. They're to be like arrows that we shoot in the direction that they should go, so that we shoot them in God's direction. And so when you don't do that, you allow them to fend for themselves. Like, what are you doing? You're shirking your responsibility. And you're now, here's how let's bring it full circle. How does this impact the nuclear family? Now you got two individuals, maybe three, maybe because the oldest son, who was Cherie's son, Will, he seemed like he got a little more sense and some different, I think Cherie, his mother, I think she on some other stuff. She ain't on that Jada stuff. You know what I'm saying? She like, look, we got a little sense around our house.
She was married to a pastor at one point, and she was, I think she realized after the fact that I let Will go, and they just did the best that they could, trying to co-parent. But I want you to analyze this, because Will is quoted saying, so when they do things, he's referring to his children, and Jaden, he's done things. You can do anything you want as long as you can explain to me why that was the right thing to do for your life. Brian, explain why this parenting philosophy produces horrible outcomes.
Well, because the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked above all things. Who can even know it? And so to trust in our own heart, to trust in ourselves, you're always going to justify why you think this course of action in your life is the best thing for you, because it's what you want. Again, so it goes back to what was God's beef with his people Israel when they began to dissent from his law, that everybody began to do what was right in their own eyes.
Right.
Right. So is that a good parenting philosophy, to let your kids do what's right in their own eyes? They need the law of God, and you are representative of the law of God in their life to give them righteous standard and righteous boundaries, and to project them in a direction, again, like they should go, because they don't know. God put you there as the training wheels. God put you there as the tutor. God put you there as
Restraint.
the restraint, right? The restraint to project them in the way that they should go. And so let's look at the fruit of what came out of that. The red table talks. You got Willow. This is sad, but she was cutting and on drugs.
Right.
You got Jaden, who don't even know who he is, right? And now you have two individuals who will go out into society. Willow she said, and her young, this was some years ago, but she said in an article, she said, I think I want to be polyamorous. Well, where'd she get that from?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, you want to be polyamorous? You came from a married couple, but you don't want what you saw in your own house.
No.
And so you look to something else. You look to something else to formulate an idea of what you think family is. And so she says she wanted to be in a polyamorous relationship. And her mama was like, oh yeah, okay, all right, cool. Yeah, sure. That makes you happy. That's your truth. That's your truth.
Right. So I was just about to start analyzing her, because basically he gives his daughter full control of her body. He goes, while many fathers lay down the hammer down a bit harder on their daughters, Will has given Willow just as much freedom as his two sons. And in fact, when she cut her hair off a few years ago and people began criticizing him and Jada for being too lenient, his response was, when you have a little girl, it's like, how can you teach her that you're in control of her body? She can't cut my hair, but that's her hair, he told Parade. She has got to have command of her body. And then as a mom, I need to explain why it's bad, because fathers, like you were saying, they're the ones that teach, particularly in girls, restraint and respect for their body. Not necessarily control over it, but to help them understand your sexuality is to be enjoyed under certain parameters, right? And certain boundaries. Like, I was so pleased to hear so I was preparing for this live stream and I'm looking at this article. There was a banner ad that popped up of two women, and it was an advertisement for something. And one of my twins was in here, and my twin Hannah she was like, "Oh, that is wholly inappropriate." I was like, what are you She was like, that lady, like the way she's dressed, like she was like, she's just all hanging out, like she should really be covered up. And she was like, I'm so glad that I don't like wearing clothes like that. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, she's getting it.
Right.
She knows her father has boundaries and restrictions, that there are certain things that you can't wear.
Yep.
11. And she's just like, But I can imagine if she did not have her dad, with no one to put those restraints and guidelines to say, this is how a young woman is to act. This is how a young woman is to behave. You can't just do what you want to do. Like, you need boundaries and restrictions, because that's healthy, right? She could have a different view. Like, we have to admit that the lack of a proper nuclear structure has a lot of our young girls out here over-sexualized, experimenting, in the sexual realm.
Yep.
Very, very young ages. So much so that in middle schools, if you ask a middle school boy, it's the girls.
Oh, look. You ain't got to tell me. Look, I was 20 years in middle school. You got to tell me.
20 years? Oh, that's right. You taught.
Yeah. I taught for 6 years, but I was a school administrator for the rest of that time.
Right.
And so, listen, I've been in middle. I saw them. The kids who, the girls were very aggressive.
Yes.
And lesser and lesser, younger and younger. Go back. My wife was actually working in elementary school, and sadly enough, April, she was telling me how the young girls and boys in elementary school, 4th and 5th graders, were having sex.
See, I would just die.
And I'm telling you right now, all those kids having sex, I guarantee you there was no strong dad in the home. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Because a dad, has a, again, you can't necessarily control everything your kids do, but you can create a controlled environment.
Yes.
You create a controlled environment in which you create the conditions and it's like look, in an experiment, you have a control and you have your experimental group, right?
Right.
Will and Jada them wanted to have an experimental group. Let's see how this turns out. No, we want to put our kids in a control group. You know what I'm saying? Let's control all the conditions here. You're going to date or you can't date and under these conditions, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you go in here. You don't hang out at this time. I don't give you access to be able to do some of the things that I remember when I was in middle school and high school, because I had no dad, had a single mom, I was into stuff that I shouldn't have been into because I didn't have the right parameters around me. I didn't have the right accountability around me. You know what I'm saying? And it was the grace of God that I didn't get into stuff that was way worse than I did. You know what I'm saying? It was grace of God that my sister didn't get into some of the stuff, that was way worse because, in some ways I was a, older brother and I was kind of looking, out a little bit, my brother and I, looking out for my little sister. But, it's, that's what a dad brings. That's what the nuclear family brings. Safety. My daughter, I'm like, look, she already knows. We joke about it. We laugh about it. She's like, no, you ain't dating for us. And the same thing with my son. I don't encourage dating. You know what I mean? But my daughter is particularly because I'm protecting her from the predatory, tendencies of men. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, hey, no, save yourself. No. You carry yourself in such a way. You don't project yourself in public in a certain way. You're not gonna roll around nowhere with no word juicy on your butt.
Listen,
you're not rolling around nowhere. Like, no, heck no. No, that ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? Certain slogans, certain, what's the one slogan I saw some, kids was wearing? Gosh, what was the word, the terms that they were using? Oh, slay and all this one stuff.
Oh,
who are you slaying? Slay what?
Yeah, I'm real conscious of, because even when you go into the kids store, like Children's Place and Justice, like some of the messaging, it's just, for me, I'm like, no, we ain't doing black girl magic. You ain't the queen.
Right.
No, who's your subject? Because it ain't me. Right? Like I'm no, you can't have it. Yeah, I would definitely agree with. Now it's funny because I recently heard actor Boris Cujo, who's married to Nicole Ari Parker.
Yeah,
I saw him in a video talk about the parameters and the boundaries for his daughter. And do you know that people gave him pushback?
They came for him.
Said if she wants to date, they can date at the house.
They want to go house.
We go bowling here at the house. Y'all want to watch the movie? We got a movie theater here in the house. Y'all want to go out to dinner? Hey, we can have dinner here at
the house.
That's a man that loved his daughter.
Thank you.
That is love.
Thank you.
This over here with Will, I don't know what
that ain't love, man. You don't love them. And you know what? It's sad because the world would say, yeah, you love them. Let them do what they want. See how that's satanic?
No, they told him that was unrealistic.
Yeah.
And that you have to let them experience, because if you don't, they wild out. Now, here's what I would say. I'm gonna bring it up. Let's look at Tia Mowry, for example.
Okay.
Raised in a 2-parent home, nice, wholesome environment. Basically, never dated. Meets Corey Hardrick. They get married young. I think she was like 23 when she got married. For whatever reason, the world then got a hold of her and told her to break up her happy home or boring home because she's thinking that out there was gonna be better.
Is that
now
what
she out here she's from sister? Now she out here thirst trapping on the Instagram and the TikTok, and her son is like, "Ma'am, I need you to go put on some clothes." Like that's amazing.
Wow.
She's thirsty for attention. Now, I'm using that as an example because she was winning, meaning she lived a nice sheltered life with boundaries, right? And decided and chose, because she's in this Hollywood world. She didn't have people around her keeping her grounded.
Right.
She wanted a taste of what was out there. Now she out here in the yard, in the elephant graveyard with all these other hyenas, and realizing that she don't know what she doing out here. Like, this is not me.
Right.
But it's too late now. Because if I was Tori, I'd be like, nah, you stay out there in the streets. She to be happy. She ran to go get happy.
Wow.
And now she's out here, middle-aged, divorcee with 2 kids, trying to figure out why is it that I'm not happy.
Wow. And so was that basically the issue with them, that she was like, was nobody cheating on nobody? It was just, I don't want this no more?
She graduated. It's like a curriculum. And she finished the curriculum, and now she's just moving on to the next phase of her life. I believe, I can't prove this, but typically when women do something like that, she thought she was missing something out here.
Wow.
And it was fun for the first couple of months, and now it's just like crickets. In her mind, she has accepted the lie that there's something out here that she didn't experience in her 20s, and that on this side of the age out, it's gonna be better.
Okay.
And she gonna get a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because that is not how it works.
No,
typically.
That ain't never been good for nobody.
No wholesome man is gonna look at that situation and be like, sure, I'll start a new life with you.
Right.
After you broke up your family with a 4-year-old and 11-year-old, and then you out here showing your, like, she never showed her body like that before. Talking it, doing all these little corny dances. Like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is.
Nobody in her life to yank her back with restraint to be like, your season for this has passed.
You're a whole grown woman.
Like, you what you didn't do back then, you missed the window.
It's done.
Nobody told her that. So with this situation, Will says one of the most important parenting techniques is that he treats his children as his equal rather than his inferior. And he says, I think that specifically in African American households, in his mind, he goes, the idea coming out of slavery that there's a concept of your children being property, and that was a major part that Jada and I released with our kids. We respect our children the way we would respect any other person. Things like cleaning up their room, you would never tell a full-grown adult to clean their room, so we don't tell our kids to clean their room. This is insanity, Brian.
Wow. And I'm telling you, listen, April, so it boils down to this. They don't love, they think they do, but that's not love. The scripture says you actually hate them, because to not, like, I thought about my son just the other day. I told my son, and there's mornings where he missed it, but I'm like, look, you when you get up in the morning, you ready to go to school, your bed is made, man. I've resolved, I'm like, okay, I need to, he's a young man, he's 17. I'm like, I don't care how old you are, you're gonna make your doggone bed up, man. You're gonna clean up after yourself. And I'm not the quintessential house cleaning guy. However, what I do recognize is that he needs regimen, he needs discipline, he needs to have routine such that he understands that he has responsibility as a young man. And it starts with just something simple as cleaning your room, right? And then you get home, sit down and do your homework, okay? Maybe you didn't get every question right, but sit down. Get that work done, man.
Go sit down somewhere.
Sit your tail down. Because you need to get in the habit. And see, here's why that's important. Because as a growing, you're an embryonic man. You're a man in growth stage. Like in life, you got like the butterfly goes from the larvae stage to the pupa stage to adult stage. And there are critical things that has to happen at the larvae stage and the pupa stage to get to the adult stage. And if you don't allow there was a story, I don't know if you heard this. This butterfly was in a cocoon, and someone saw the butterfly trying to get out the cocoon, right? And they decided to help him get out of the cocoon.
Too soon?
Too soon. So he was partially out, right? And he was like, "Oh, wow, just help him." You think he's doing it a good thing? He helps the butterfly out of cocoon, and the butterfly's wings never developed, and it died. Here's why: because the butterfly needed to struggle when it was coming out and developing into that next phase. It needs to struggle to get blood flow through the wings in order for the wings to develop. And because the wings never developed, it never became an adult. And so when we talk about our children, we gotta allow them to struggle through things. He's like, Dad, why I gotta do these dishes every night, take the garbage out? I'm like, you're gonna do it. And I've resolved that. I'm like, yo, me and his mom, we're like, okay, we're on one accord. We got to let him do you gotta load that dishwasher, man. That's your job. Take that trash out, man. Every Tuesday night, Friday, that's your job. Take it out. Do it. You're gonna do it. You don't like to do it, but when you're 10 years down the road, there's gonna be a resolve in you that has been blood flow to the brain and in your practice that has exercised some part of you that it kicks in that you have to be an adult, and responsibility and work is a part of that, and discipline. Right. And if you don't do that for your children, I would dare to say you don't love them, to the extent that, and I'm not saying that if you didn't have them do certain chores around the house, you don't love them, but if you don't discipline them, right? You don't discipline them and correct them and help them become adults, help them progress to the point where they grow and mature in some way or form or fashion, and you don't correct their behavior when you see them going in a direction, you yourself don't even have the discernment to see that the direction they're going is going to create disaster for them in the future, then you're not exercising love for your children. Like I said, again, I'm not saying I'm the perfect parent, but we understand some things that we got to do for them. You know what I mean? And so I look at the Will and Jada situation. That is the opposite of love. That is hatred. You think you love them, and they probably mean well, thinking they were doing what they. I'm not going to take that away from them to say that they didn't mean well, but they were severely misguided, because that is crippling them. And the fruit of that, again, becomes your son putting on a dress, yelling out at some awards ceremony that some dude is his boyfriend that was winning. You know, he was like at some music show, that's my boyfriend. And he putting that on Instagram and all that other stuff. And now he's dressing like a girl. And because, see, let me tell you something, April. Our culture, and this is what you said, all of these ideas, the 3 pillars of what impacts the nuclear family, here's how they build on one another. Right. Marx wants to destroy the family. Marx wants to destroy objective truth. Marx wanted to destroy God, because here's the thing. They want you to focus on what you are, not who you are. They want you to focus on what you are. I'm a black person. That's what you are. I'm gay. That's what you are. I'm trans. That's what you are. But who you are is made in the image of a God who created you. Who you are, so your identity. Who are you? Why are you here? What is your purpose? Why are you created? And Marx wanted to divorce your mind from thinking about who you are, being made in the image of God. He wants you to focus on what you are. You're only materialistic, naturalistic stuff.
So it's safe to say that these new school progressive ideas of that Will and Jada have adopted, they don't produce favorable outcomes, but they in fact have weakened their family, emasculated Will, and just completely the idea that they are a family now. No one believes that. I mean, genetically, yes, but it's not. The foundation is so rocky and unstable that they might as well not have been, unfortunately, a family. Listen, in the Chapman household, like we got a healthy doctrine of work around here. Everybody works, okay? Like my kids been working since they was like 4, 6, and 8. Right. So but that's because I'm a workaholic. My husband's a workaholic. Like we just work. Like we don't feel, if we're not working, we feel unproductive.
Right.
And so yes, they have chores. My boys have chores. The girls, they all got children in this house. It's just how it is. And I think when children have a healthy doctrine of work and responsibility, it hedges against the I'm entitled, I deserve, I should have. It's like, no, I earn, I'm rewarded for, I obtained. It's a mindset shift. And unfortunately, they out here trying to find themselves because their parents never laid down, this is who you are, this is your identity. They just want them to figure it out and then give them the tools or the resources to do so, because They hate God.
or the foundation where to start from. Where do you even
Right.
start looking to determine who you are? Because when you're not submitted to God, you're not going to determine who you are. You're going to come up with that for yourself. You're going to say, well, here must be what I am. I'm just a woman, and I deserve, and I'm oppressed.
Right.
I'm a victim of a system. That's what I am. That's what I am. But the who you are has to be in your creator.
Right.
The who you are is in your identity as a created being in the image of a holy God. So,
got you. So, we're going to wrap up here and examine one more. Well, it was actually two more, but we're going to have to blend them in together in terms of these threats to the nuclear family. One is examining Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, right? Who we all know are the parents of a boy that is now known as Zaya, living her truth after the court grants her a name change. And then the other article is the Keke Palmer situation, where she praises single parents in a heartfelt video after giving birth. I'll let you. I was gonna play a video. Let me play this video, listening to something very interesting that Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are on record saying. So let me get it queued up here. I'm gonna put us on the side there. And is this the video? Let me see. Where? Here it is.
Basketball game at a certain school, and I saw just the kids playing around, having fun, hanging out. I saw your daughter playing, just being a normal kid. That said a lot about you two and what you have done. What does it mean to you to raise someone who is changing the way our culture looks at things?
When you hear it like that, I mean, it's heavy. You know, it's so much. She's a 15-year-old, girl who just want to be a 15-year-old, and I think in the midst of it, we understand that responsibility is great, and we're going to try until she gets that microphone, until she can show the world who Zaya is. We're going to continue to try to lead the way Zaya wants us to lead. And like I said, with our voices, with our eyes, and with our ears.
Yeah, but you came in and you really have. This has become your family, your children, and you have stood so strong for these children. What does it mean to see Zaya, and especially with the court ruling that just happened? What does it mean?
Last night she was so happy. And we were just like, say my name, say my name. Yeah. Because, to some people it just feels like paperwork. But to her, it's her truth and it's her reality. And we support that.
Truth.
And being in her orbit, you want to catch up, you want to keep up. I mean, her first choice of colleges is MIT. This is not a dim bulb here. She's incredibly smart, incredibly bright, and a phenomenal leader. And I'm just happy for her that she gets to be exactly who she is. And we're really happy about our Puma campaign. Yeah.
Hello. But have you taken a chance also to congratulate yourselves for how you've handled this as parents? It's an unbelievably hard job that people don't understand.
It's not hard to love your kid.
Yeah.
Not hard to love your kid, but it's hard when you're dealing with so many people have so many opinions on your kid. One person has an opinion about my kid, I want to fight. So,
I think someone else's opinions of us are none of our business. And I think there's a lot of hurt people out there and a lot of scared people out there who project their hurt and fears and unfortunate childhood trauma onto other people. And I think that's what we're seeing across the board. So I pray for those people while we.
I'm sorry, I had to stop that because when she started talking about she praying for people,
right.
I tune out. So first of all, I noticed something that the father said this, that Zaya's leading the way, and however Zaya wants to lead,
Right.
that's the direction in which we'll go.
Right.
And then I can't remember if it was he or she said, no, the host, the interviewer was saying, you should congratulate yourself, right? So celebrate the fact that your son, because he is saying that he is a girl, because you are allowing him to do this, you should be celebrated for this. And then one other thing that I noticed is that they equate love with literal, this self-destruction is love, because that's why I'm called, like, he is too young to know what is best for him. He is too young to be able to make this kind of decision. But because they're supporting him, they equate that support, that self-destruction, they equate that with love.
Yeah.
And then when she said who she's praying, I'm like, who are you praying to?
Right.
Because that's
Yeah.
God of the universe.
That's
Like,
not. Nope.
no, it ain't him. And he, I'm listening to them. It's just so weird because I'm like, sir, you don't have a 15-year-old daughter. You have a 15-year-old son. But you want us to believe.
Right.
I'm not participating in that foolishness.
No.
I'm not. He does not have a 15-year-old daughter. Brian, unpack this, because
Yeah.
I ain't emotionally mature. I can't.
Well, let's go back to this. First of all, because we could say in God's economy, the man, right? He is the one who teaches and leads his family as priest in the home.
Right.
When your children say, "Hey, here's who I want to be. Here's who I feel I am. Here's what I think I am," your job is to say, "No, here's who God says you are." And so, because Dwayne Wade was not a man submitted to God, he was not a man who was a priest of his home. He was not able to stand in the gap when his son says, "Here's who I feel like I am," and stand in the gap and intercede and say, "Well, no, we need to pray. We need to counsel. We need to, seek out godly therapy." You know what I'm saying? To say, let's see why you're feeling that way, because that's the lie of the enemy. And so they bought the lie. They believed the lie. And so then they perpetuated the lie. Here's what love says. Love does not rejoice in wrongdoing.
Right.
Love, rejoices with righteousness. Right? Love does what's best. Love does not consider, does not think on its own or think of itself, does not focus on its own needs, but love looks out for the other. And if you really love your son, you wouldn't do what he wanted to do. You would do what was best for him.
Right.
And in their mind, what's best for him is to allow him to do what the world says, what will liberate him. Live his truth and become her. And so, and then they become champions for the cause. So Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union are looked upon as champions of the trans,
childhood movement.
Right, trans childhood movement, transing the children. They're looked at as champions of that. And she is the most vocal one by far. She took the boy to a pride parade.
Right.
She's the one who, she was like, "Oh, we so glad." Why that child got a Puma campaign? Only because he's trans.
Right.
Only
there was
because
no
he's trans
worthy accomplishment.
No, only because he's trans with high profile parents. We're gonna put you out there. Why? Because they want to project that to the rest of the world. That's the only reason why.
So you believe there's an element of exploitation?
Absolutely, absolutely. Why? What is the left? And not just the left. And it's not just a political. I don't want to make that statement necessarily, but the left does undergird that movement, right? They undergird it. They underwrite it, undergird it. They forward it. However, the spirit of the age, which is embodied oftentimes in the leftist ideologies.
Yeah.
The spirit of the age wants to, to flood the airways and project the ideas that rebel against God. Watch this. I looked at Jaden. I went back to Jaden Smith, and all day as I thought about the image of Jaden Smith and that image of him just looking all femme, and all I could think about was a rebellion against my Creator. Right. I don't want God. I don't want God telling me who I am. Again, his what I am, not who I am. And this is a campaign to say, God, Get out of our affairs. Stay out of our business. Take a hike. And this is what this is all. This is what it's really all about. God, take a hike, because you're not going to tell us this is creation. Saying, listen, I'm suppressing what is true. You're not going to tell me what I am, what I can do. I'm autonomous, right? And I want a right over my own body. I want a right over my own mind. I want to think what I want to think. Again, you don't speak truth. I know what's true. And so we are law unto ourselves. We are the autonomian. We are law unto ourselves. We are the other term I was thinking of, not just law unto ourselves, but that our sense of epistemology is a it begins within me, right?
Yes.
There's a Gnosticism, an auto-Gnostic, right? My knowledge comes from within me, right? A meta-Gnostic, a meta-Gnosticism, you know what I'm saying? It comes from within my own mind. And so I get knowledge from my own mind and my own feelings, and then it becomes an epistemological outcome and conclusion that must be what's true. So that's why we say my truth, because it's based on how I feel when I've divorced myself from God. Anyway, so I'm rambling, but I said all that to say that this is what we see with the Wades. They're perpetuating that whole idea. Like, your truth, this is how you feel, then we're going to champion that. And we are in rebellion against God. And your, journey to become a woman, which you're not, your boy, your man, or you're going to be a man one day. That is your expression of utter rebellion against our Creator. A rebellion against our Creator.
What ultimately, this is not going to end well. But my hope is that the audience would recognize this. They're like, well, why do you care? This doesn't affect you, right? Like, that's what they're doing over there. What people do need to understand is this does affect you. And it's coming directly at you in the sense that, one, we can't avoid this.
Right.
And two, it's a threat to the nuclear family, because if this ideology can take hold to a broad spectrum of the population, then eventually the idea of the nuclear family is going to be considered archaic and problematic.
There you go.
You can't really live your truth in a traditional nuclear family. You've got to have these other configurations that best suit you. Do you not realize how this impacts society in a broad sense? Because everybody has their own idea of what is right.
Right.
And then who sets the standard when your right clashes with your right?
Right.
Like, we've already seen this happening. Go ahead.
And I'm sorry not to cut you off. Ultimately, the individuals promoting nuclear family, you're labeled as hateful. And that's the goal. You're going to be labeled as hateful, as hatred, because that's an affront to others who say, well, I define family in another way. It is hatred, because it's already hatred to say that there's a woman is one thing. That's That's hateful. It's already hateful to say that a man is defined this way. And so then the logical progression becomes, you're hateful to produce or to promote a nuclear family, because that's trauma that traumatizes individuals who feel like they've been oppressed by the nuclear family.
Right.
It's just like it's trauma for for blacks or people of color to be subjected to white supremacy, which is defined as, individualism, hard work, being on time.
Proper grammar.
That's trauma. So I've been traumatized by being immersed into culture that's trying to oppress me by imposing their values upon me, right? And so let's translate that to the trans and gay movement. You're traumatizing me by projecting your values onto me, and that's oppressive to me. And so that's ultimately what we're going to go to. And so everybody in society who continues to hold on to the traditional values, the conservative values, you are the outcasts. You will be the rebels. You're now the rebels, right? You're the ones, and that's by design. That's going to be. He said, Jesus said they're going to hate you, and we hold to that not because we're conservatives. We hold to that because we're Christians,
Amen.
and because we hold to Jesus, and because that's what Jesus valued. And Jesus said they're going to hate you, but don't get concerned or don't be surprised because they hated me before they hated you, and the reason why they hate you is because of your testimony for me.
Come on through here. So we're gonna wrap it up by doing a brief overview of why you believe Keke Palmer, another actor. So we've highlighted a lot of the performers of the Afrostocracy today, right? How they're given the main stage and the platform to promote these alternative pathways of living, right? So with her, she's an adult. She's a 28-year-old, woman. And is she 28? She might be a little older than that. I don't know, but for whatever reason, she's not married. She has a boyfriend and chose to have a child out of wedlock on purpose and took time to celebrate or give a head nod to single parents because she was like, listen, this is hard and it's a struggle. And for anybody that's out here, doing it on their own, I applaud you. And on the surface, right? I could even see Christian women saying, I don't think there was anything wrong with that because, being a single mom is hard and sometimes you don't feel appreciated. So for someone to say, kudos, attaboy, it's like a celebration. But for me, the way I interpret that kind of messaging, one, here we have another Black woman on the main stage who the idea of being somebody's wife is too hard. But the idea of bringing a child in the world outside of the confines of marriage is okay.
Right.
It's celebrated on Saturday Night Live, like, oh, look, I'm having a baby. And it's just like,
all the single parents, all the single parents, all the single parents, all the throw your hands up.
Like, young girls who look up to her is like, well, if she could do it and be a Hollywood actress and be an A-lister and she can still have her baby and do it too. Well, why can't I? Like, who says that I need to be married first, right? Who says, like, it's not stopping her, who says it's not ideal?
That's
why
exactly.
do you think this particular, the celebration and the elevation of single motherhood is a threat to the nuclear family?
Right, because go back to what actually destroyed the foundation of the Black nuclear family since the 60s and the welfare state, right? So when the feminist movement actually took root, because this is all rooted in the feminist movement and the welfare state. Feminist movement said, we don't need no man. The sexual revolution says, it's your thing, do what you want to do. The welfare state says, we will incentivize men not to be there, and we will encourage this. And so there, out of that became a culture that Walter Williams said, and we said this on the show before, Walter Williams said, the welfare state and the incentivization of Black men not to be in the home did more to destroy the Black family than Jim Crow, slavery, or the harshest racism ever could.
Right.
By removing the man from the home. And so because that her sentiments, Nick Cannon, his way of doing things publicly, are fueling an already established foundation and a culture that already destroyed the fabric of growth in the Black community for the nuclear family. And so what they're doing is reinforcing and giving steam to it in a different generation under the guise of success now. And so because they're successful, now they're giving it a different face. I can be successful and I still don't need no man. I can be successful and I still don't need to be married to this woman. I can just have these babies and we're going to keep it moving because I got the money to take care of it. And so it's giving that same movement a different face because maybe we ain't going to do it through poverty anymore. Let's do it through wealth. You see what I'm saying? And let's give it a different face. And so again, what's Satan's job? He don't care if you white, black, otherwise. Let's reiterate that. He don't care if you white, black, Asian, or whatever. The hater of the family is an equal opportunity offender. He hates family everywhere. And if he can do it through your cultural context, he will destroy the family through your cultural context because he studies culture. And he can do it through black people, no voting, no fucking, with a V.
Yes.
He can do it through he's going to do it through, white folks in Hollywood by promoting a date hookup culture on Tinder or whatever the deal is, and like, hey, let's get drunk, high, take some ecstasy pills, and we're going to do what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas culture. We can do it through that, and that leads to people, that leads to increased levels of divorce. And so he's doing it to white folks that way. He's doing it to black folks this way. Notice that there's some cultures though, they're hanging on. Some of my Asian brothers and sisters, they're like, look, y'all ain't messing with us.
My Indians, they like, we're not participating.
Right now,
we'll engage in commerce with y'all. We want your money, but no, we're not adopting y'all's lost value. That value system is trash.
And watch this, April. In America, I would dare to say I haven't looked at these statistics, but I believe in America, marriage and father absence is probably worse here than it is in most other places.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah, I think it's worse. Now you can make the case in some African countries you got a lot of orphan kids and so on and so on, but a lot of African countries, marriage is valued at higher levels. In Asian countries,
some African countries, like you're not getting her unless you pay the bride price,
right?
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
Like, we don't play that over here.
Exactly. And so in culture, like the cultural norm, where you could probably find exceptions to that with different, with their orphan population, things like that. But the cultural norm in a lot of these places, it becomes marriage is valued, and fatherhood and the family is valued. However, when you come to America, why is this? Here's what I believe: because America has been the place that God has blessed because of the presence of the church has been prevalent in America for so many years that now the enemy has fought against it, and the American church Christianity in America is on a decline now, and the enemy is fighting it. And the enemy used family as one of those elements that he used to fight Christianity in America, because he's trying to root it out, because he's trying to bring about the stage for the Antichrist agenda.
I agree.
And so America has been a target for Satan's attacks, but that's why the church still has to be the remnant, and the church still has to hold on and maintain a witness and a testimony of Christ in America, because America has been under attack, because for so long we were the missionaries going out to all the rest of the world.
Right now, we need to be evangelized.
Now we need to be evangelized.
We need to come over here, like, what's wrong with y'all? Like, y'all wilding.
We wild.
We are wild, and it's funny because I actually know personally at least two couples who are in an arranged marriage, one from Syria and one from India, and it's all about that nuclear family for them. And when they tell their story, it's not what you would think an arranged marriage would look like. But with my Syrian friends, the wife was just like, she was vetted for him, but the way they connected them made it seem very natural and organic.
Oh, wow.
But it had already been decided that she was the approved wife.
Wow.
And as long as once they presented her to him, as long as he liked her, he already knew, oh, she's approved, she's got the green light, so I can date her. And they dated, got married, and they got like 2-3 kids.
Wow.
It's just beautiful. It's just understood that way. We can't. We here in a way we so messed up. We just cannot. We cannot rationalize the idea of that. Well, with my children can, because we talk to them often. Like, you probably already know your spouse. Well, we know their parents. You probably know their parents, and so like, this is the pool. Here's the list. You ain't got nobody on this list.
Exactly.
That's how I'm doing it.
You know what? I mean, you know what? I ain't mad at that at all. Me and my wife were talking about that the other day. My son, we were like, okay, we thinking of somebody like, okay, John and them, their kids, and then I got Sean and them and their kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Low Jada over there. Like, okay. Hey man, it's like, look, we already playing matchmaker. You know what I mean?
It's a ring.
It's a ring.
It's a ring. It's kind of like a syndicate.
Right.
We like a little underground syndicate. and we're all raising our children the same way with similar values, and so that we'll have a healthy pool to choose from.
Right. Yep.
And
That's
it's,
it.
love is part of it. We want y'all to love each other, but this is duty. This is family duty here.
There you go.
That's just how I feel. Well, Brian, it has been a pleasure
Yeah.
having you back on. I'm so glad we had an opportunity to kind of unpack these threats to the nuclear family. You know that you are always welcome to come back. There's so many different topics that I'd love to unpack with you and people like you, because we're so like-minded and we agree on so much. But I thank you for joining us tonight. I have housekeeping, some announcements, things I want to share with my audience. So I appreciate you coming on, and you are welcome anytime.
April, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And look, I love for us to chop up some more things in the future. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. You have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Awesome. All right, you guys. So we had an opportunity to sit down with Brother Brian to discuss some of, at least what we believe are the top 3 existential threats to the nuclear family. Obviously, we couldn't flesh every single aspect out to its full capacity, but we did get to discuss it on the surface a little bit. And I hope that we did a good job of building the bridge and making the connections to how all of these things, whether it's the leftist ideology, right? The wokeism, the Marxism, that victimhood mentality, connecting that with pop culture, the social irresponsibility being glorified, and then the sexual revolution, the queer ideology, the feminization of Black men, and the over-sexualized behavior. All of these things coupled together erode the nuclear family, or the idea of the nuclear family, and it implants in the minds of future generations that these things are good, and that the nuclear family is somehow played out, old, and archaic. I hope that I was able to make that connection. Few things that I want to talk about before I let you go this evening. One, I want to thank you. I thank you guys for joining me every week to discuss these difficult matters. I realize that we're not going to always agree, and some people might be like, "Oh, I know she loved Jesus, but she talk about conservatism too much." And I need to let y'all know that the reason why I spend so much time discussing the political aspect of it, because it has infected almost every area of our life. And this politics is encroaching upon my faith, right? If politics left my faith alone, I wouldn't have to discuss it. But because they want me to capitulate to the culture, they want me to bow the knee, I have to engage these things from a biblical worldview. One, because it's the Bible that tells me how I'm supposed to think about all this. And then 2, I have to be a voice and speak up, because I'm not about to just lay down, let this stuff happen without me letting the truth of what I know to be truth according to the scriptures. It needs to be documented. I want to be found faithful. I don't want to be found a coward. I don't want to be found to be the one that, when I had the opportunity to say something and to push back, that I chose to fear man rather than God. So that's why I do it. And if that turns some people off, I apologize. But if you go to the description of the Standard of Truth podcast, I make it known, like, I'm not hiding this, that I discuss the culture, politics, education, sociological things, political things. I discuss all of that from a biblical perspective. I don't segment my life. I'm not just joining. I'm not just a Christian on Sunday and then do what I want to do the other days of the week. The Bible informs my faith, and the Bible informs where I stand on these issues. So that's why I talk about it. So before I let you go, I need to show y'all a few things. So, y'all, I am normally not a green. I like green, but I don't normally wear green. But I decided tonight, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear one of my new spring arrivals, and I want to show it to you guys. Y'all, this dress right here, this the new, right? This the new right here that I want y'all to see that I'm rocking. So I can't stand up because y'all won't be able to see it. But if you scan that QR code, I absolutely love this dress. And it came in early this week, and I think I only have left. I know I have a large. I think I have I have some mediums left. I don't know if I have smalls, but because it's sold out, I can get more. But as soon as I put this on, the girls were like, "Oh my gosh, mommy, I love that dress. It's so cute." I like the full skirt aspect of it. Like the last time I wore a pleated skirt, y'all, I probably was like in the children's choir and I was 5. It's something about the nostalgic nature of this dress that makes me like it so much. I like the pleated skirt. I like the way that the flutter sleeves, like it's giving me like 1950s vibe, but with a modern flair and twist to it. So I wanted to share that. That is one of my new arrivals and products of the day. And then the other one is this one. Okay, so this one's on sale. It is the V-neck half sleeve graphic swing dress. I might wear this one next week. I'm not sure, but paisley is like in now. Like all of these prints, flowers, paisley is in. You guys, this one is perfect for spring. This is the perfect dress. Like if you know it's a Saturday, you have errands to run. You don't want to get like super dressy, but you don't want to go out in like your mom jeans and your baseball cap. You rock this with some cute slides or some sandals, grab a cute handbag, and you're off. Like you didn't even try that hard. And you just out in the street making your husband look good because you look cute. Representing Christ well because you're not all hanging out, right? Like it's not too short. And you don't look like somebody's Meemaw. Like when I think of paisley, I think of Meemaw house coat. This is not giving you Meemaw house coat vibes. So I wanted to highlight this new arrival because I think it's cute. And you know I am not gonna leave you without well first let me show it again so y'all can see it. Y'all can see that one there. And this is what it looks like if you can see it a little better. Y'all, it is so cute. Now she's rocking it with the clutch. This could even serve as a date night dress. This can serve as a brunch dress, like just out with the girls getting brunch. Cute little clutch, some sandals, even some wedges. Like for the short people who don't like being low to the ground like me, I'm doing mine with wedges, right? So I can just peer tall. This is cute. So you've got that one. And then you have the green that I'm wearing tonight. This is what the back looks like. This is the back of the green. Super cute. She's dressed this up with some like a sandal type shoe. I might wear this to Chris, I might wear this to your birthday party. I don't know. If you're still on here, we'll see. And then the last one, I do not want you to neglect your spiritual health. All this cute stuff is nice. Like I like looking cute, but this is the stuff that really matters. The other product of the day is our growing in grace. Running low, guys. I have a couple left. It is the best $20 you will ever spend. It is about spiritual disciplines. I believe that Christian women need to be trained in righteousness, and the way you do that is through the scriptures, right? However, it's good to have a guide, something that can guide you and lead you systematically week by week in disciplining yourself into spiritual discipline. So the first thing I like about this book is it actually explains like what are spiritual disciplines, taken from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 8 through 16. So it talks about how the Christian life is filled with joy. But as believers, we need to have spiritual disciplines. And part of that is knowing and loving God through spiritual discipline. So this is my growing in grace. I'm trying not to, I don't know if you can see it. Ooh, it matches my dress. Look at that. It's so cute. Thank you so much to everybody who has supported the show and has supported the Standard Home and Living lifestyle brand. I really want to grow this brand, you guys. So many of you guys have placed orders, whether you see it on my merch shelf on the YouTube channel or you see me posting about it on Facebook. I know I don't post enough, but I really just want Christian women to have a place to get cute clothes, to get biblically sound resources, nice jewelry such as my Tetelestai bracelet. I wore the necklace this week. It is the matching necklace to the bracelet. Tetelestai is the Greek word for it is finished. We are approaching the resurrection season. And so I've been wearing these out, and they've been amazing conversation starters. I got to talk to somebody about why today I am better than I deserve, because I'm standing clothed in the righteousness of Christ. I was in the bank, and a guy asked me how I was doing, and I was like, better than I deserve. I borrowed that from a good friend of mine, and she always says that. I love when she says it. And it's a conversation starter, because most people are like, what do you mean? You deserve to feel XYZ. And my next response was, I was like, actually, we all deserve God's wrath and judgment because we're not good. Like, he wasn't expecting that. He was in the line with me at the bank, like, oh wow. Like, it made him think, like, how many times do you engage with a person and they ask you how you're doing, and you say better than I deserve, and they're like, oh, you deserve to be happy, and I'm like, actually, I deserve his wrath because I've broken his law. Like, that's not the normal way to engage in a conversation, but I use it as a way to share the gospel. So I don't know. Take these tips, use them, don't use them. But it broke the ice. Like, it opened up the door for someone to have a gospel conversation when all he wanted to know was how I was doing. And I just told him I'm better than I deserve, because any day above ground, when you're in the land of the living, to serve the true and living God and to represent him and be a light on this earth is better than you deserve. So, other than that, you guys, I'm so glad to chat with you. Hope you're doing well. I don't know. Y'all are joking in the chat. You will wear a big hat and drink mint julep. Are y'all talking about keep shouting April? I'm trying. Connie, are you coming? I need to know if it's true to size. I need something for a Kentucky Derby party. Okay, so I'm wearing a medium. I don't really want to tell y'all my size or how much I weigh, but I'm gonna do it so I can help my sister out. If you are an 8 or a 10, you could definitely get away with wearing a medium. But if you not a 10 and you more like a 12, you need a large. If you are 2, 4, even a thick 6, you could probably do the small. But if you're like, it depends on how you like to wear your clothes. Like, it's a flowy dress. So I don't know. I'm a tween, meaning I should be a 6, but I'm not. In my mind, I'm an 8, but depending on what it is, I'm probably a 10, and that's a problem. I'm working on it, y'all. I had a setback, but I'm working on it. By June, I should be where I need to be, but I'm not there yet. I'm just gonna let y'all know. Cortisol levels are high because of stress, and your girl I have some days when I'm doing good, and then I have some days where I'm like, I'm failing. Like, I'm just not doing well. So if you are like an 8, 10, you could do the medium. But if you like, nah, I'm way bigger than a 10. If you are a 12, 10, 12, like a true 10, but you almost a 12, like, you should probably go up to a large. I think I can get this in an extra large, but it's not on the site. If you see something you like on the site and you like, why you ain't got my size? Message me. And if you go to standardhomeandliving.com and you don't see a size and you like, I really want this. I want to support you, but I really want this, but I don't see my size. Message me and I can let you know either what I have coming in or what I can get. I'll say that. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean I don't have it, but closed mouths don't get fed. You got to ask for what you want. And I will make special concessions for my people if they really want. Fran, good to see you. I know you're going to bed. Progress, not perfection. Yeah, but child, this double chin is telling on me. I can't. When you start looking in the mirror and you look away because you like, that's just too much flesh. That's when you know it's time to do something. I should be a 6'2". Right. I'm old too, sis. My birthday is Monday. And I just knew by the time my birthday came that I was gonna be where I needed to be. and it crept up on me. I had to help my mom do some things and move her, and the time just escaped. So it didn't happen. A thick six. Yeah, it is a thick six. So anyway, we're about to head out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I've got some good juicy content. Juicy as in edifying content. I don't do, the made for TV kind of stuff, but hopefully you guys will tune into that. Don't forget the Homeschool God-Centered History Summit is coming up. It is a free event. That was our sponsor for tonight. Here's the QR code for that. If you're a homeschooling family and you want to engage and learn God-centered history, not the history they want you to remember, but one that's biblically based. In a couple of weeks, April 3rd through the 7th, it's this free event. Scan my QR code and use that so that you can attend. And I'm trying to see if I have a link for it. I don't know if I do, but I definitely have that. Don't forget to support the show. All right, you guys. Grace and peace. Y'all have a wonderful evening.